Asexual Life. This is a place to be for education about asexuality, all things asexual, covering dating, relationships, confidence, self-love and self-care. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, please subscribe and hit the bell icon right now. I also do lifestyle vlogs and entertainment vlogs as well. So yeah, hit the subscribe button. So what do you do to rebuild your life after a toxic relationship, dating, friendship, or family ending? Now, I have to say, I'm not a medical professional. I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist or any type of professionally trained mind practitioner, if you like. I did used to work for the NHS as a lived experience person, teaching how people can recover from mental ill health through using social media. I have done a coaching course with the Coaching Academy, and I have got a qualification and trained advisor. So hello, Olivia. So I just wanted to make it clear that I'm not a psychologist or psychiatrist, but I will be talking from my own personal lived experience tonight. Okay. So take from this video what you will, what you find useful, and anything you don't agree with, you can just discard, right? So first of all, if you've come to this video, I have to say that I know how difficult it must be for you right now if you're in the middle of an ending, if you like, because the ending is not really the ending, is it? We all know that if you're dealing with someone who's toxic, whether that's a relationship person, dating person, someone you're in a friendship with or been in a friendship with, or someone that's even a family member, all of these people can really, really hurt you. And if you've come across this video right now, I'm guessing that you have dealt with or are dealing with some toxicity or toxic situation in your life. Now, if you haven't already ended the toxic connection, I would urge you that wherever possible to please walk away and leave that situation. And what we have to do in our life, we have to project forward into the future as to what will happen if we stay in that situation, if we stay in that relationship, in that dating scenario, in that friendship, or with a family member. With a family member, it's often harder because sometimes you might be living with a family member, you can't actually escape and leave. Maybe you're you're young and you can't do that. So you have to safeguard yourself. Hello in chat. And do what you can with the situation. This means limiting the time with toxic people. But if you're in a relationship that you can leave, then you should make sure that you are able to do that safely. And like I said, I'm not a therapist. I'm just talking from my own personal lived experience. So, do get help from a professional organizational therapist wherever you can to help enable you to leave a toxic situation. Say that you're still deciding whether a situation is tolerable for you or not, whether you keep trying or not. So say you're in a situation where you're dating, or hello, Lewis, nice to see you. You're dating or you're having a relationship with someone, right? And I always think it's a good idea to monitor the situation. So if you're in a friendship or relationship, for example, in any scenario, like dating, whatever it is, it's a good idea to monitor how you're feeling. So when you're with that person, how does that person make you feel? How does that person make you feel really anxious, on edge? Is there a power play? Is there an imbalance in the relationship? Are you the one putting in most of the work? Are you the one who, for example, is having to bring up difficult conversations because that's both people's jobs, not just one person? Are you the one who's asking most of the questions of them where they lack curiosity in you? Are you the one who's always organizing the dates, for example, if it's a dating scenario? Because you shouldn't be the one that's just arranging all the dates all the time, right? Or to see that person, right? There has to be a type of equality. Now, when you're first getting to know someone, you might not have that equality balanced out, but there has to be some action from both people, right? So if you are in a relationship or dating scenario where you think you think that it's just not good for you, right? I want you to monitor the situation over time, right? So if you're if obviously if it's something really toxic, they throw an object at you, they start hitting you, all this type of thing, leave, just get the hell out of there. You don't owe anyone your life, you don't owe anyone anything, right? If physical violence is never okay, right? It doesn't end well, right? So if your life's been threatened, if someone who's verbally abusive, physically abusive, mentally or emotionally abusive, these are all toxic signs, right? And sometimes we stay in these type of relationships for a long time. I have a history in the past of being in abusive relationships for a long time. I've lived on my own for a very long time now, so I'm happy that I can take care of myself as much as possible, right? But that was a situation I was in years ago. And I stayed in it because I didn't know any different. And, you have to understand that if you've got a pattern of being in toxic relationships, it's often because of your childhood and things that have happened in previous relationships that have led you to accept behaviors from people that are not good for you. So you also, when you get out of any toxic relationship, you have to understand that you need to do work on yourself to try to prevent that happening. At the end of the day, if you're an attractive person, you'll get toxic people attracted to you as well as healthy people attracted to you. You'll get all types attracted to you. You can't help being attractive, right? So the idea that, if we're fully healed, no one's really fully healed anyway, but if people have the idea that, you're so healed that you won't attract toxic people anymore, that's not actually true. If you're an attractive person, you're going to attract people who are healthy and not healthy. But what is really difficult is when you have someone who you think is healthy in your life and then they become toxic. And this can be a slow corrosion of your mind. The gaslighting can start, and then it can be a slow burn, decreasing your confidence and self-esteem and self-worth. So there's really obvious abuse where someone's hitting or punching or kicking or verbally abusive, like shouting really horrible names and stuff like that. You can have someone who's very outwardly abusive towards you, but you can also have subtle abuse, right? Subtle abuse is when someone puts you down, belittles you. They might not do that. Some of them will do it in public and others don't. They do it behind closed doors because they want to keep up with bravado. They want everyone to think they're kind, they're nice, they're wonderful, they're absolutely great. This is a grandiose type of person. You can get people who are really grandiose, showy-offy, or you can get more vulnerable, what they call a vulnerable narcissist type of person, where it's more less pronounced. Do you know what I mean? So they do more things subtly. So there's toxic behaviors, like I said, of verbal abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, mental abuse, all these types of things, right? This includes if someone's lying to you, deceiving you, manipulating you, gaslighting, if they're denying your reality, right? They're blurring your reality. And, this can be very, very subtle sometimes. And that's what's so difficult. So if you are in a situation where you've not actually left that toxic person yet, I would monitor how you feel and just look at narcissistic traits. Look at the traits of personality disorders. I'm not saying that everyone with a personality disorder is to be feared or anything like that. There's a lot of people out there with personality disorders, right? I'm just saying, be aware of the toxic traits of different personality disorders, and particularly narcissistic personality disorder. Just go through the traits. You can Google different traits online. You can do a lot of research about yourself, but look for these traits and just monitor. If you're still in the situation, just monitor what could be undermining your confidence. Have they got a superiority complex, for example? Do they think they're better than you? What's the evidence for that? What are they saying? Which means oh no, I'm no better than you. Gentle, subtle put downs, making you feel a certain way or think a certain thing, this type of thing. So it's very, very important that that you really assess what's going on in your life. Olivia, I'm really sorry about what's happened, Olivia, in your life. I'm really, really sorry. Sending love. And so you've got to monitor. If it's not outwardly really obvious they're abusing you, I would monitor a situation over time, right? But one of the worst things is, and I've had this happen to me, is when you think there's something changed in a relationship, a friendship, a dating scenario, something shifted in the dynamic, and you bring it to their attention. And when you bring it to their attention, they deny it. They deny anything has ever happened or it's happening, there's any shift. A healthy person would address it full on. If the dynamics change, they should feel it as well if they're close to you. But if they don't feel it, if they're like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about, then that's a red flag. If they are not curious about you and you're the one asking all the questions, they're not asking any questions about you, that's a red flag, right? So if they've got inconsistent behavior with you, that's a red flag, right? And so we've got to be very, very careful that we monitor the situation if it's safe to monitor. Some abuse is just so obvious, but some of it is over a prolonged period of time, over years, right? And if this person is a liar or deceiver, this can be really hard to spot, because if they're deceiving you, they don't want you to know that they're not telling you the truth. And so this is one of the highest forms of like emotional manipulation and abuse, really, because if someone's deceiving you, right, they're emotionally and psychologically abusing you. I'm giving you love, Olivia. I'm giving you love. And so, if this is what's going on, then it can erode your confidence over a period of time. And so you've got to be very aware of this. So how do you rebuild your life if it's a toxic ending? First of all, you have to end it, right? For you to rebuild your life, you have to end it, right? Olivia says, guys, make sure to like and subscribe to Sandra so she knows you're engaging with her content. Yes, that would be lovely. Thank you, Olivia. Lots of love to you. And I'm so sorry you're going through a difficult time at the moment. And the grief is natural. I'm sorry you lost your loved one, your pet. I'm really sorry, And, that is part of what I'll be talking about, obviously, not the pet aspect, but the grief I'll be talking about in this video. So I'm really sorry. It's okay to grieve. Grieving's a long process, and I'm so sorry for your loss. So in terms of like the relationship stuff I'm talking about, where you're dating or friendship or anything like that, you can't rebuild your life if you're still attached to this person in the same way anymore, right? Because you can only rebuild something if it's like broken down. If you've ever seen Iron Man #3, you'll know he has this protocol at the end, right? And it's called the clean slate protocol, right? So Iron Man 3, clean slate protocol, what does that mean? He literally blows up all his Iron Man suits at the end, right? To start over. And that's kind of like what you have to do to end a toxic relationship. You have to be the one to walk away from it. Or if they walk away from you, not go back to it, right? Because some of these toxic people, they'll walk away from you to control you, right? Because they want you to come running after them, right? So once it's ended, you have to allow that person to end it, or you have to end it by walking away. We can't control other people's behavior, right? We can try and repair and do our best in the friendship, dating, relationship scenario, family scenario, but we cannot do the work of that person for them, right? We can't make them become something they're not. We can't make them a better person, right? So if they've deceived you, if they've lied to you, if they've betrayed you, right, you have to walk away, because a healthy connection is all about healthy communication, but it's also about trust. Once that trust is broken, the majority of the time is gone for good. And unless that person's fundamentally changed through years of therapy, usually they don't warrant coming back into your life, right? And I would never ever hang around for someone, right? My motto usually is, once I'm gone, that's it, I'm gone, right? And so that's it. Years ago I would go back, but now the majority, usually I have like guys have come back to me who've dated me before, and then I've remembered they're toxic, and so then I've had to say no. I had someone come on Instagram a few weeks ago, and it was like, this guy came back in my life and I didn't realize who he was, and he said, oh, we dated like a couple of years ago. And then I remembered, because he gave the excuses, I wasn't ready basically for what you wanted. But actually, that wasn't what happened. He lied to me, because he knows I'm asexual and sexual orientation, right? He said he could live without sex, and we got on the date, and he's like, oh, I can't do that because my family will worry about that. My family won't like that. and my whole community won't like that. So I can't do that. Like, he knew that before he even had a date with me. So why lie about it, right? So I can't be with a liar. Once the trust is broken, that's it. That person doesn't value me if they're lying to me, right? So toxic behaviors, gaslighting, lying, deception, betrayal, blaming you, saying that you're controlling if you set a boundary, like you're entitled to set a boundary to protect your health, safety, and well-being, right? If they don't like your boundary, they can choose to leave that relationship. They can choose to leave that situation, right? But if they not only want to go over your boundary, but they want to deflect onto you and blame you and accuse you of controlling them if it's a boundary. Remember, a control is when you're telling someone they've got to do something and you're giving them absolutely no choice in it. You've got to do this now, right? A boundary is when you say, look, if this happens, this is the consequence of that action, but it's still up to you whether you decide to do that or not. So I set a boundary, and someone decided that they didn't want to uphold my boundary. This is a boundary I had to keep myself safe from a toxic situation that I didn't want to have anything to do with. I'd escaped. I got out of that situation, right, a long time ago. And that person wanted to associate with that toxic situation, which is like, in effect, dragging me back into it. A very painful, toxic, person and situation. And they wanted to reconnect with that toxic person and situation. Now, if someone wants to reconnect with one of your abusers and one of your bullies or whatever, or someone who's abused you, that says more about their character than it does about yours. If they want to reconnect with someone who's abused you and basically like side with the abuser, right, then you have perfect entitlement to choose to walk away from that situation, right? That's not about control. That's about a safety, looking after your own safety and well-being. So if someone frames your boundaries as control, it means that they don't want to be held accountable for their actions that's hurting you, right? They don't want to be held. Hello, Heather. Lots of love to you, everyone in chat. So you've got to know that you've got to let that person go, and you've got to walk away from that person, right? So sometimes it's so shocking, some people's behavior. You can think this is, you're with a nice, kind, caring person, but you have to understand that some people's motives for doing things are not good. So even if they do something for you, say they do a lot of stuff, like even narcissists, they can buy you flowers, they can buy you gifts, they can do loads of acts of service for you, right? But yet behind closed doors, they're not nice to you. They put you down, they belittle you, they blame you, they deflect, they gaslight you, blur your reality. So to the outside, this person's nice. It's like, well, they're buying you all these gifts. They know what you like, even in gifts. They're caring about you. That's what it seems like to the outside world, right? But when you're on the inside, right, they can be doing other stuff. They can be gradually corroding your confidence, right? Because you have to monitor them over a period of time of what they're actually doing. Like, are they saying anything where they're saying that you're the crazy one, for example? Are they making any derogatory comments like, you know what you're like? Do you know what I mean? This type of thing. You're the crazy ones. There's something really wrong with you. This is a way to control you. This is a way of gaining power, gaining control over you, gaining superiority over you. If someone's got a superiority complex, usually it's a narcissistic trait, whether they're full-blown narcissist or not. So we recently discussed avoidant tendencies on this channel, avoidant personality disorder, right? But there's a narcissistic personality disorder, and avoidant personality disorder can overlap. And so they can have a lot of the same traits. But usually a narcissist is very, very self-centered and self-preserving. And they've got a very big ego. They care about what people think of them. They have to preserve this persona, this ego at all costs. And they're doing things for a very, very self-centered reason. So even if they're doing something for you, it's for their own benefit. It's like a transactional thing, right? And so you've got to be very aware of these things. And, it's horrible. So you have to, first of all, work out that if you're in a toxic situation, if you are, get the hell out of it is the first step to rebuilding your life. You can't heal from toxicity, especially with a person giving you toxicity, if you stay in that connection. That's like saying, yeah, I'll stay with you, and you can do what you like. You can deflect your blame, you can shame me, you can be superior to me, you can do things for selfish reasons. You can put me down subtly, because sometimes it's really subtle, right? And all this stuff, right? If you stay in that situation, you're allowing them to continue that behavior, because they can get away with it. If they can get away with it, they will, right? And some of these people make out they're so wonderful. I'm wonderful. I'm perfect. It's like, no one's perfect, right? So if they're very ego driven, very self-centered, if their motives for helping you or doing things for you are very self-serving, for example, because they want your admiration, they want your praise, they want your validation, they want your attention, right? These are like toxic behaviors, right? You shouldn't be doing something for someone just to get external validation, praise, attention, your ego boosted, right? You should be doing it because you really care about someone, and you care about their well-being, and you want them, you want them to be happy and well, and help them for the right reasons, right? So you've got to look at all this behavior. Now, sometimes it's mind fuckery, excuse my language, and you don't know what the hell's going on. You're like, this is just fucking up my mind. Something's not right here, and I don't know what it is that's wrong. Whenever you think that, it usually means something is wrong and something toxic is happening. But sometimes you don't know. And you could even try and address it with a person. And if they keep denying it, this is a form of gaslighting. If you feel, I know there's something wrong, something's changed in this dynamic, something's not the same, right? Of course, if we're an anxious attachment style, we have to monitor ourselves, because we like, what is anxiety? Is it just my anxious attachment style, or is this really some cause for concern, right? And I think that's the difficulty of your anxious attachment. You can kind of like possibly self-blame, thinking, oh, maybe I'm just actually anxious, maybe it's just nothing going on. But if you have the whole package together, like, do they make you feel supported on a consistent basis? Are they consistently opening up and talking, not just about themselves, but asking you questions and inviting you into their world, and having a healthy communication, not about avoiding conflict. It's about tackling difficult things head on in a nice way, a friendly, open way, right? Even if it's something difficult, right? There's ways that you can approach difficult conversations. You can even say, like, I really don't know how to have this difficult conversation. It's really hard for me. I appreciate if you hear me out, and then, I'm happy to listen to you, or something like this, right? If the person's aggressive, shouting at you, showing snarly teeth, which I've had done to me, which was absolutely terrifying, then, it's just no go, right? Once you have a fear of safety around this person, right, then you have to obviously go, right? So some people with personality disorders, they can have an emotional outburst, right? And you've got to ask yourself how that makes you feel when they have these emotional outbursts. Is it something that you feel that you can kind of talk to them about, or you kind of know when this is happening, but you're still it doesn't directly affect you as such, because you're just letting them have their outburst and you're still getting on with your life, and you're like, okay, that's them, that's their business, that's what they're doing? Or has it got to the stage where they're having an emotional outburst, but your safety is at risk, right? Your safety is at risk. They're aggressive, they're just superior, they've got this condescending thing where they're so superior and better than you, and they're blaming you and all this type of stuff, all the toxic narcissistic type of traits, the gaslighting, the blame, the deflecting their shortcomings onto you, making them superior, making out that they're perfect and that they never put a foot wrong, and all this lot, and being physically aggressive, and no empathy, and all this type of stuff. You know what I'm talking about, don't you? If you've got any people like this in relationships, dating, family, or friendship, you really need to get the hell out of there as quick as possible, right? If you've got children to deal with this person, then you have to minimize contact with them and only talk formally to them, and like a business type of talk. No emotions, right? And limit contact with them, limit seeing them, right? Obviously, if you've got children and they're violent, you don't want your children to be around violent people. Do you know what I mean? So I don't have children, so can't really advise on that. But, you need to get professional help on that situation. So sometimes that we can't help it. And sometimes we live with this person. I used to live with a person that used to be really, really bad, very abusive. And when you're financially tied to someone, it's really difficult. So the best way you can rebuild your life from that is try to start making a life of your own. Now, usually if you're with someone narcissistic, they're such a way with you that you lose your confidence, and either you don't get new friends because they've made you feel such a lack of confidence in your personality, in the way you are, because maybe you're a bubbly personality and you love, you're very confident, bubbly, but as you go through the time with them, you feel yourself getting less bubbly, less excitable, less of yourself, right? You start to lose yourself, you start to lose your confidence, you start to lose your self-esteem. And then you worry about making new friends because you're like, oh, there seems to be something wrong with me, or I just don't feel it anymore, or something. So that's a way that they can subtly kind of undermine you, so you kind of lose connection with other people, not because they've directly told you can't have friends, but because they've made you feel so bad and kind of insecure about yourself and underconfident that it's actually made you feel like you can't make friends. Like that, if they've told you you're the crazy one and there's so much wrong with you, or they've made you feel that way over a progression of time, that can actually hinder you from making new friends and being in new connections that could be a lot more healthy for you. Heather, I was busy. However, I'm still here. Great. So you've got to be very careful. And then other people, they would just literally play with your mind, and they will also tell you they don't want you to have any friends. I've been in a relationship years ago where the guy's very controlling. He could have a best friend, he could go out with people from work, but he used to get insanely jealous if I went out with anyone and didn't want me to have any friends or anything like that. So I've been in that situation before, so I had to kind of start over from that way. So I've started over more than once in my life from toxicity. So, monitor the behavior. If it's obvious behavior, get the hell out of there as soon as possible. And then as much as you love the person, as much as you think this person is going to change, have it in your head, they're not going to change, right? They're not going to change. And even though you think they might, right, you don't have to wait to find that out. You don't have to wait to find out if they will change or not, right? You have to deal with the here and now. It's not for you to get them to change, right? True change comes from within. I know people who go to therapy, right, or have gone to therapy, and they didn't do it for the right reasons. They weren't in therapy to address their own issues and problems head on and dive deep into those difficult emotions and their behaviors, right? They were using therapy as a badge of honor. My last long-term ex, who was very abusive, used to do this. I'm going to therapy, but at home he was like really abusive towards me. He was going to therapy for anger management, but it didn't work. But he was wearing it like a badge of honor, like he was a great person in the relationship. He was more superior than me. He was better than me because he was going to therapy. I have been to therapy throughout my life, right? And I have got a therapist now. But, the way he was using it as a badge of honor, like he'd just done something that was the right thing to do to make everyone think he was great. Oh, you must be such a lovely partner because you realize you've got anger issues and you're going to therapy. How wonderful. How wonderful, And I know someone else, and it's like they go to therapy, and I'm like, something came up, and I'm like, did you talk to your therapist about this? And they're like, no. And then they left therapy, and they were more concerned about the fact of the area. It's like, oh, I've given up therapy because I'm not interested in being in that area anymore. And I'm thinking you should be focused on the therapy itself, not what area it's in and whether you like the area or not, or you're bored with it. That to me means you're not actually doing the work. You're so focused on the other things. If you're focused on the other things, then you're not focused on doing the work in the therapy session. Your mind's elsewhere. That's not doing real work. That's just having a therapy to say you've gone to therapy. That's not actually doing true inner work to work on yourself. So be very, very careful of people who do therapy if they're doing it for the right reasons or the wrong reasons. I see a therapist of my own accord. I'm not in a dating scenario. I'm not in a relationship. I started my therapy sessions last October, so I've been seeing my therapist for a while now. And I do it because I know I've got a lot of trauma in my life and I want to try and heal that. Unfortunately, I've had some recent trauma from a situation that did end in toxicity, which is why I'm actually on this channel doing this video. Hello to everyone in chat. Cece, hello. Heather, dating is hard. I'm happy the way things are alone. Peace is better for the soul. Yes, Heather. So I have to say, since I've got away from a toxic situation, sometimes I'm feeling grief because I'm still going through a grieving process, and other times I'm feeling peaceful. So you know, because I like being by myself without the feeling, you know, without the toxicity, basically, right? So when you're trying to rebuild your life, what should you do, right? This is my own personal advice, not professional advice. Get a medical professional, psychologist, psychiatrist, whoever you want to help you. You can take this advice or you can leave it. It's entirely up to you, right? So me personally, in order to rebuild, right, which is I'm in a process of doing at the moment. First of all, this particular latest scenario, right, the situation, the person, the connection with the person is gone, right? Like as much as possible, right? And so the friendship I had is gone, right? I walked away because that person decided they didn't want to accept my boundary, right? Now you could argue that they ended the connection because they decided to go over my boundary, and they knew that if they went over my boundary, it would end in me walking away, because I'd already told them that, right? I said that if this happens, I will likely have to not be friends with this person anymore. You know, likely have to walk away. I didn't say for definite at that point, but I said likely, right? But when it came to it, unfortunately, there was a lot of toxicity from the other person in the end, which made me very scared, if I'm honest. And you know, a lot of what I've talked about in terms of, like, you know, gaslighting, blaming me, you know, superiority, you know, framing my boundary as control, which is really bad, because no accountability, obviously, on their part, deflecting their shortcomings onto me and making them out to be a saint and me to be the one that's not good enough, right? So, you know, and something happened that something happened as well, and I was very scared for my own safety, right? This person is no longer safe for me to be physically around or emotionally to be around. And it was a shock, right? I didn't expect this. I saw things, right, happening a couple of years ago with this connection. And I've spoke to this person numerous times saying, I think that something's changed, something's gone on, because I could feel an imbalance, I could feel a difference. And this person assured me that there was nothing. I've had numerous sit-down conversations calmly, and they continue to say that nothing's different. Well, I know now that my instincts, my intuition from years ago, we're talking like October 2023, I know I was right now back then. I know I've always been right. But the fact they kept denying it is a form of gaslighting, because they've been denying that reality of mine for absolutely, well, nearly two years, isn't it? Right? So this is a form of gaslighting when they're denying something, right? So, and also, there's been stuff like, I notice behavioural change, and I'll say, oh, this is different. And they're like, no, I'm always like that. And I'm like thinking, no, you weren't. I know what I saw. I've known of this connection a long time, right? So again, this is a form of gaslighting, blurring your reality, saying, denying stuff that you know to be true. So it's really hard. So let me take a comment in chat here. So double Oinside, is that how you pronounce your username? Dated my childhood crush who always knew I liked her. 10 years after we left school. Started off well, but long story short, by the end of 2 years, she had swindled me out of 10 grand and broke my heart. Oh my God. I'm really sorry. Safe to say that took a lot of getting over, and I have no interest in dating again for the foreseeable future. I completely understand that. Yeah, it takes a lot of getting over. Like, what I'm doing to rebuild my life is being on my own, right? So I do think that when you are in toxic situations like this, I think it's really important to get used to being with yourself again, especially if this person, whether it's a dating scenario, relationship, family, dating, like, you know, friendship, if this person is in your life a lot, I think you need some time to kind of orientate yourself on your own again, so that you're used to being on your own, relying on your own more, getting used to being with yourself more, right? Especially if they've done behaviors that have made you doubt yourself, made you feel like you're the crazy one, gaslighted you, blurred your reality, being superior, all this type of thing, because all this is very corroding your personality. It's like putting you down. It's like chipping away at it till eventually, like, you have to leave, right? And so it's very difficult because you're in a situation where you have to leave, right? I left a situation, like I don't have any in-person actual friends, right? I know acquaintances, like I know people to say hi to, like a couple of people at meetups, for example. And I would say they're probably more than an acquaintance because I know them more than just an acquaintance, but I don't class them as friends because they're not in that category yet, if you know what I mean. I don't know them well enough, right? And you know what I mean? So they're probably a little bit more acquaintance, but they're not actual friends. And I don't usually see them very often at all, unless I go to a meetup that they happen to be at. That's kind of like just a meetup thing, right? But so really, I don't have any in-person friends, like no one I can call my friend, right? And this is really difficult. But I walked away from a situation that was very toxic for me in the end. That was unsafe for me, having no friends, right? In-person friends. I still got some online, but no in-person friends. And you know, and you know, I'm on my own because I have disabilities, so that's always quite scary. But it's far better, and it's really hard and courageous, but it's far better to walk away from someone and be on your own than it is to be with them and have those toxic behaviors. They're only going to get worse. They don't get better. They're only going to get worse. They're only going to get worse. And you can, if you monitor the situation, you can actually feel, you're like, is this a little bit undermining my confidence when they said this? If they call you crazy, or they're like, oh, you know what you're like, or you're the one who has got the actual problem, you know, these type of really putting down scenarios where they think they're better than you, especially if you've helped them. What I find is so hard is when you like, maybe you've cared for them and helped this person, maybe they were the victim, because a lot of these people play the victim. Right? They're the victim and everyone's really bad to them, right? And they've come into your life and you want to help them. So maybe you've helped them and then in the end, they don't even care about you that much, right? They just don't really give a shit. And I think that's hard because it's like, hang on a minute, I've been loyal to you. And, you know, this is just like really hard to take, right? And I think when someone has deceived you, it's just so hard because you don't know what was real and what wasn't, right? So the first step is to leave that situation, leave that relationship, friendship, dating scenario, family. If you can't leave it, minimize contact with the person. If you've got children involved, minimal contact. Be businesslike, be formal, take emotions out of it. Don't get into a scenario where you're going to be emotionally involved with this person. Attraction's going to be there still. You're going to end up snuggling, or if you're not asexual, having sex. Well, if you're not an asexual and you're a person that likes sex, you know, you might end up having sex with them again and all this type of thing. I'm asexual, I'm not interested in sex. We might end up kissing them if you're asexual, though, cuddling them or whatever to feel safe and secure. But this is just a temporary thing. This is like a dopamine hit. This is not real healthiness, right? That you get addicted to people that are no good for you, right? It's just what happens, right? So you have to break the addiction to them, right? And this can take a long time. It can be like coming off drugs or something, right? So you have to understand, like, break as much contact. Ideally, if you've got no kids with them, no financials ties to them, you know, you've got no house or mortgage or anything like that. You know, you've got no they don't own your money or anything like this, right? No estates together or funds together or anything, all this type of thing. So, because obviously if you've got these type of things, then you still have to talk to them. You have to talk to them and be civil to them, right? You have to get on friendly terms with someone who's abusive. Is very difficult. Someone who's narcissistic, abusive, someone who may be really avoidant and got narcissistic tendencies, even if they're not an actual full-blown narcissist. You know, someone who's just got really toxic behaviors, no matter whether they're late, whatever it is. We don't even have to label them, just toxic behaviors, right? We can label the behavior rather than the person, right? Toxic behaviors, right? If you're still having to deal with this, you have to be very formal with them. Right? Formal pleasantries, that's it. Don't get involved emotionally, because you don't want them to drag you back to the way things were with them, and for them to regain power and control of you. Because that's what a lot of these behaviors are. They're power and control. Power and control, that's what it is. Right? And it's horrible, right? And deception is one of the worst things. Like gaslighting, just blur your reality, so you don't know what the flaming hell was real and what wasn't. So in terms of a grief, you're going to go through a grieving process, right? So try and cut all ties with them if you can. If you can't, minimize it, right? This does not mean texting them and going, hey, it's your birthday, I just wondered if you're okay. Want to go for a birthday drink? No, right? We're not doing birthdays. We're not doing Christmases. We're not doing any celebrations, right? Nothing, right? You only deal with them for what you have to deal with them. Categorically have to. No, nothing else, right? Not checking how they are, not asking how their poorly mum is, not asking how their aunt is, not asking them if they've managed to like get this item that they wanted on eBay or whatever. Nothing, right? You have to understand, if this person's deceived you, lied to you, betrayed you, displayed toxic behaviors, the person that you thought they were, right? If this is a shock to you, the person that you thought they were is dead. They might be a body walking around, right? But that person is dead. They're not who you thought they were. They have deceived you and they've lied to you. And this is really hard, right? And what happens in the grieving process is and especially if they've deceived and lied to you, you end up going back, right? So I'm even gone through this process myself, going back into what happened, playing scenarios out in your head, like, was that person telling me the truth? Did they lie to me? How long have they been lying to me? How long have they been deceiving me for? If this was what they're behaving like now, then they were like this all along. And some of it can take a very sinister turn, because you can realize, you can look back and see the pattern, and you're like, shit, this person was really dark for me and I didn't even realize. Or this person like came across as really nice but on the surface, but their intentions were selfish. They're very self-centered and ego-driven, and you know, they were saying little things every now and again. They were just having like little niggles, or they were retreating, and you felt like you were alone. You know, like one minute you're really good friends, or really like, you know, close physically and loving, and the next minute they're cold and distant from you, right? And you have this pattern, this seesaw effect. This is a sign of a toxic relationship, where it's friendship, dating scenario, blow hot and cold, up and down, right? And I did a video on this channel a long time ago saying you can't be stable and secure with someone who doesn't display stable and secure behavior, right? It's like being on a seesaw, so it's horrible. But it's difficult if you've got friends like this, right? Because some people's personality disorders, they do go up and down, right? And obviously I'm a compassionate person, I'm empathetic, and I'm sure a lot of people here are, you know, and so you do feel for them. You do know that they've got their own struggles. People do struggle. Everyone struggles. Everyone has childhood trauma. All this manifests in these types of behaviors, but some of them are just toxic, and you have to understand that they're unacceptable. You have to get to a place where, yeah, they've got shit that's happened in their life. They've got trauma. They've got really difficult things that's gone on, but they need to be able to try and work through that themselves if they're willing to, and see their bad behavior and mend their ways, and take accountability. And they should know, they shouldn't be blurring your reality. Do you know what a mindfuckery it is? Do you know what you can get from that PTSD, CPTSD on a visceral level? Because you've got all that trauma that's been pumped into your brain. The trauma is not knowing what was real and what wasn't. So your brain will automatically try and figure stuff out. And yes, you can use like AI if you want to. I use AI as a tool to help me figure out what went on in the past and everything like that. But you just don't know the reality. You do not know, because you're not them. You can only assume, like, you can look back and think, hang on a minute, what did they say in that moment? That was putting me down. That was belittling me. That was making me sound like I'm a crazy person. And because of that, they had this superiority over me. They had the upper hand, the control, the imbalance. That's why the connection felt imbalanced, because they got this superiorness about them, right? So you've got to like look at these things. You can only kind of, it's difficult, because I like looking back to try and assess the situation in order to move forward. Some people like to completely block these things out. I think you have to go through the trauma. You have to go through the emotions in order to come out the other side. So suppressing and repressing emotions is not good, right? We have to go through these difficult emotions, the pain, the grief, the anger, the resentment you have for that person wasting your life and time. If they've been gaslighting you, they've been blurring your reality, they've been deceiving you for so long, then of course you're going to feel like you're cheated. You're going to feel like they cheated your mind. They were emotionally abusive to you. They were, let me just have a look at some of the comments a minute. Because the comments I haven't been going up, so I haven't seen some of them. Heather, I find dismissive behavior is very rude. Yes. Dismissive behavior is very rude. And it's interesting, because I was watching a YouTube channel who specializes in narcissistic abuse, and they were saying that, what's really bad is the fact when, actually, it wasn't that. Yeah, I was watching that, but I was also in the Love Life Club as well, and getting advice there, because obviously I'm in Matthew Hussey's Love Life Club. And it was actually Matthew Hussey's Love Life Club. I was watching a video about narcissistic traits and stuff as well. But I was in the Love Life Club, and they were giving advice saying that, if someone doesn't ask you questions about yourself, this includes even if it's a friendship, that's a red flag. That's actually really rude, because if all they're doing is you asking questions about themselves, and they're not asking you any questions about yourself, that person says they find it very rude. They didn't even realize, because they were saying that they were one of the coaches in there, and they were saying that they didn't realize the friendships they had were like one-sided, where they were asking all the questions of the person, and they said they find that very rude behavior now, right? They find it very rude that if you're the one asking all the questions, they're not asking you any questions about yourself. So I think it's really important to look out for that, right? So someone says, I think I'm not fit for anyone. Right, okay. So if someone thinks, if you think you're not fit for anyone, then I would say to literally work on yourself with a therapist or psychologist or psychiatrist on finding out why you think that is, and building your, knowledge up of yourself, reflecting on yourself, and then, figuring out if it's an issue that other people have treat you badly. So you have low self-esteem, you have low confidence, you have low self-worth and low self-belief, in which case that's your immediate answer. You need to work on all those things before getting into a relationship or friendship or anything. Like, you can still be open, to people, still make connections with people, but do it in a way that's not like a needy way, in a way that's like a healthy way. Like, if someone if you meet people, talk to them and be open and warm, but it's okay to go back home, for example, by yourself again, if you know what I mean. Does that make sense? Because you've got to understand, if you think you're not fit for anyone, like, as someone implanted memories in your head, like you're not good enough, you're crazy, you're bad, you're nothing, you're not worthy, all this type of thing. Or is it that some people obviously do have personality disorders in of themselves, which makes them have toxic behaviors themselves, where they need to actually address those toxic behaviors themselves in therapy. Or if it's a case that someone else has made you feel unworthy, and it's other people's toxicity that's made you feel like that, then you need to work on the self-esteem, self-worth, and anything like that. I don't know your background, so I don't know where you're coming from with that statement. Do you know what I mean? Like, I would like to think that it's something that you can get through and that you can come out the other side of with working with a therapist or something, whichever way it is, So double inside, totally agree. I saw so many signs and my mind told me to gently prod here and there. I could feel it in my gut, something was off, but she was a master of making me feel like the villain for questioning. Yeah, it's really hard, isn't it, when they do that? So with the situation with me, the person didn't make me feel bad for questioning, but they would just avoid trying, they would just be avoidant of answering, really. They'd just say nothing's changed. Like, they would look at me, I don't know what's worse, I think they're both bad, aren't they? Making you the villain for questioning, but also completely denying it and looking at you and going, nothing's happened, nothing's changed. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of both make you feel like it's in your head and that you're wrong and that your gut's wrong and that you're wrong and that you're I kept thinking, well, maybe I'm just well, I knew something was wrong in this case, but because they weren't admitting it, I couldn't put my finger on what had actually changed. I just kept saying in my brain, something's changed. And sometimes they would talk to me and everything would be better for a while, and then there would be another thing happen. I was thinking, this doesn't seem right. This just seems an imbalance. So I would try and address it again with them, and it'd be like, no, nothing's changed, right? And it's horrible because it really distorts your reality. And I want to say, I'm really sorry that you've had this person do this to you. I think when you say, you could feel it in your gut, but she was a master of making you feel like you're villain for questioning. It's awful. I mean, healthy relationships obviously should never make someone feel like the villain for questioning. Do you know what I mean? It is difficult. I mean, obviously there's different ways of framing it but you know what I mean? If someone's making you the villain for questioning, it's usually they're very toxic because they want to deflect their shortcomings onto you and make you the wrong person. So, you know what I mean? But avoidant people, for example, I'm not saying every avoidance bad, but avoidant behavior isn't good in general. And, people who don't like conflict, avoid conflict, they'll just pretend they don't know, or they'll avoid answering the question. So you're left thinking, well, what the hell's going on? It's very disorientating. It's very, very unfair. It's very selfish of them. Gaslighting messed me up, lost me friends because I sided with her and doubted friends who told me better. Lost all trust in myself and thought I was paranoid until the final day I found her cheating. Oh my God. I am so sorry this happened to you. I'm really so sorry. I really feel for you because it's horrible, isn't it? It's just absolutely horrible. And I've been cheated on, so I know what that's like. It's just horrible. It's difficult because you really want to trust the person that you love. You want to trust the person that you love and care about the most, that they're telling you the truth. Especially if you're an honest person yourself, then you automatically think everyone else around you is honest. Incidentally, the person I'm talking about without mentioning their name, they told me a long time ago they used to lie. But I thought they'd never lied to me, seeing, that is kind of my mistake, if you like. But I gave them the benefit of the doubt because I thought they were never lying to me. Right? They also told me when I met them they weren't a good person. Now I wish and I thought they were just self-depreciating, feeling bad about themselves, So I just felt sorry for them because I felt they'd just been through a lot of difficulties themselves in their life. And that, the way they feel about themselves is just not true. It's just, it's just like low self-worth and low self-esteem. But now I realise that actually they were probably telling me the truth in the beginning, all along, you know what I mean? And that they're not good, because they weren't good to me in the end. So I can't exactly say they are. Oh, but they think they're perfect, You know what I mean? They think they're perfect. And obviously people who are narcissists think they're perfect, right? They want everyone to see them as this perfect, really charismatic person. Well, it depends what type of narcissists are. There's vulnerable narcissists and grandiose narcissists, right? But they want to preserve their ego and their image to people, and they'll probably pretty much do whatever it takes to do that, And I'm so sorry that person cheated on you. It's really horrible. It's really, really, really cruel. And I'm sorry you went through that. And it's devastating. I know, because I've been through a lot of, I had 2 long-term abusive relationships. And I've had 2 friendships now that both basically ended up in betrayal. And these are people I've known for a long time. Deception and betrayal. And so the first person fully admitted they deceived me the whole 5 years of the friendship. So I don't know what was real and what wasn't. And the second person, I figure they probably did deceive me a lot of the friendship, even if they didn't admit it now with what's happened. So, you know what I mean? And looking back, when I thought things had shifted in 2023, that's when I think they must have been at least deceiving me from that point onwards, if not before, because their behaviour changed then. So it's probably something leading up to that made their behaviour shift so quite significantly then, but it wasn't significantly enough to think I couldn't get through that with them, if you know what I mean. So yeah, it's but there was an imbalance. There was an imbalance in that connection from then on. But of course, when someone denies it, if you're an honest person, then of course you feel like you need to believe them, because why should they lie? Because you're not a liar, so why would they lie? And then you find out that people haven't got the same character as you. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, Heather's saying, sorry that happened to you, to Double Oinside. Double Oinside, I didn't even break up. I just walked out and never spoke to her again. Cut all ties. Took me almost a year to get over it. Got a dog to make me happy and for the company. Finances back in shape, good now. Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. Yeah, it was weird because sometimes it's not safe, is it, to actually say, I'm breaking up with you. Sometimes you just have to leave, and the walk out and never speaking to that person again is the breakup. Do you know what I mean? And cutting all ties, if you're able to do that, which is great. I know some people, they just can't for whatever can't if they're like still tied to that person with children or finances or home. Some people live together and they find this out. And it's like, you know what I mean? And they're still living with the person. That's really difficult. I'm so glad that you're in a better place now. Heather, sometimes they want you to take the full blame. Accountability is a rare thing nowadays. Yeah. I mean, if someone frames a boundary you have, if a boundary is to protect your own health and well-being and safety, and they frame your boundary as controlling, you know, and they've still got the option to go over your boundary, you know, to not pay, you know, to not agree with that boundary, in which case you have to walk away if it's a deal breaker boundary you have, then, you know what I mean, how can you be controlling them if they still have the option to walk away and go over your boundary? Do you know what I mean? But you can't, you have to walk away. You can't let someone keep going over your boundary, especially if it's a major boundary. This is a boundary of my safety and well-being, right? And yeah, there was no doubt that I could, you know, like, I had to leave. So it's hard. Because this particular connection as well, I didn't actually say to them, oh, I didn't actually say to them that, you know, like, everything's completely over. But they know that I'm just, you know what I mean? Unfortunately, it's a situation where I can't completely, you know, never, ever have any contact with them again at the moment. So it's difficult. It makes it difficult. But at the end of the day, I don't usually speak to them now. So, you know what I mean? And it's, I mean, they did want me to take the full blame because they didn't want to have the accountability. But so when we are going through, like, you know, like getting out this, first of all, we have to understand there is a grieving process. So cut all ties if you can. If you can't, minimize, very much minimize. Don't get involved in anything that's outside of what you need to actually ask them, right? Don't feel sorry for them, right? Because they make you feel sorry for them. Don't feel sorry for them. If they cry, it's tears for themselves. It's not for you, right? Always remember that. So if they've done, obviously, this, we're talking about toxic behaviors here. Excuse me, we're not talking about like people leaving amicably, right? If they start crying and they're the one who blamed you, gaslighted you, tried to shame you, tried to minimize what they've done to you, lack empathy, right? All these toxic behaviors. If they start crying, that's tears they're shedding for themselves. It's not tears they're shedding for you. They're sorry. They're feeling sorry for themselves. They're not feeling sorry for you. Sorry that you caught them out. Sorry that their perfect ego was shattered. Sorry that you didn't stay with them for them to have more power over you. Sorry that you weren't some doormat still for them. Do you know what I mean? That's got, you know, it's not because, and because they may feel sorry for you, because obviously they're more superior. It's like, oh, what will this person do without me? They can't live without me. It's like, well, I can actually live without anyone. I mean, I'm not saying I want to be without any friends or any people in my life at all. I'm not saying that, you know. I think it's still important to still be open to things, but while being cautious, you know. But clearly I haven't got any in-person friends anymore. I can clearly be okay on my own. I have lived on my own for a very lot of years, right? You'd be shocked if I told you how many years I'd lived on my own. But yeah, so I've learned to live on my own very, very well. So I'm used to my own company, and I am actually finding a lot more peace in my own company because I've not got that imbalance anymore, if you know what I mean. So in terms of rebuilding my life, I'm going through grieving. I'm giving myself time and understanding and caring towards myself that this is a grieving process. I've had to analyze the behavior that happened, obviously, because I think there's been deception involved. There was betrayal. And things weren't how I thought they were exactly, but obviously I had a gut feeling that something was wrong for a long time. I believe now, definitely, that when I felt there was a shift in October 2023 with this connection, I honestly believe that I was right about that all along, even though they kept denying it, right? Which they should have just been honest back then with me, but they weren't. And so I honestly believe, and I believe that everything I felt, like the imbalance in the friendship, the connection, the imbalance, I think everything of that was true, right? I think all of that was true. And I don't know what was real and what wasn't, because they've been harboring stuff to themselves, I think, for a very long time. And that's like, you know, it's like a deception, like making me believe something which isn't true, and lying. They blatantly lied to me only a couple of weeks, 2.5 weeks like before, about this specific thing. And it's like, wow, okay. And all the behavior at the end was very shocking. I didn't expect this person to go that way, you know, because even though I felt an imbalance, I still thought they were a nice person. I still thought they were, you know, I thought they were a healthy person. Clearly I got that wrong, right? So, you know, you give someone the benefit of the doubt, and, you know, you find out, no. Their behavior at the end showed me that they're like, I'm like, what the hell has gone on? It's like they've had a personality transplant. And this was like really shocking for me, like, because I'd not seen them behave like this before. And yeah, but I had noticed like patterns of behavior, especially this year, with lack of empathy in quite a few, not fully, not with everything, but quite a lot of things, like things that I would expect someone to go, God, I'm really sorry about that. I'm sorry you went through that. I'm sorry. Like, of course you wouldn't want to be in that situation again. Do you know what I mean? Like, nothing. So there's a lot of, you know what I mean? But obviously sometimes you don't know. You have to just monitor things because no one's perfect. I'm not perfect. I might do something that isn't good sometimes. I know there was a couple of times with this person that they pulled me up on my behaviour from the way I had a tone with them, and I said sorry, and I haven't done those things since, right? It was quite a long time ago, which is fine because we all have some behaviours that are not good, right? But obviously, when things take a turn for the worse and when there's deception involved, when a person's been leading you to believe something for so long, and actually you find out that thing wasn't actually their intention ever, or their intention, or they blatantly lied and said, something that's the opposite. There was a lot of contradictions with this person as well, right? But obviously contradictions, if they're like making out that the things they're saying is true, but they're contradicting themselves, it's like, what do you believe? So anyway, it's good that, it's good to work through the grief. I know your brain's going overtime trying to make sense of what happened. That's what's been happening to me. And it's hard, it's difficult. And then there's upset and pain, there's emotional struggle. There's like, I put myself back in that situation. I'm like, but that person was, that person was nice and kind and did this for me. I'm like, and then it's like, but why did they do that? What was their motive for doing that? Was it for selfish reasons, or was it because they genuinely wanted to do that? Think, what did that person tell you was their reason for doing something for you? Was it for themselves? And if it was, then that's not a kind person. That's not a good person if they're doing something for very self-centered reasons, for self-serving reasons, right? So we have to dive deep and look back through patterns of behavior, look through what happened, and analyze the situation for what it actually is. But you come to the point where whatever personality disorders they've got, narcissistic trait they've got, I didn't think this person was a narcissist, by the way, but the behaviors at the end and some of the things looking back on, I'm thinking, wow, maybe they're not an actual full-blown narcissist, but there's traits at the end, very narcissistic. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to learn detachment behavior. Yeah, well, sometimes detachment behavior is not actually fully healthy. So they say to actually heal properly in a relationship. There's experts that have written books on this. I haven't. But basically, in order to heal properly, it comes from healthily attaching to people, not being completely detached, right? So there's a lot of people, especially in law of attraction, there's a lot of people going, detach, and this will come to you, right? So I think it's good to be detached to a certain extent, like detached enough to be able to still be on your own. But you need to work towards a healthy level of attachment where you're interdependent. This is still skills I'm learning myself. I'm not perfect in any of this, right? But so in order to heal, it actually you get healing from being in a healthy relationship that's secure, that doesn't make you feel anxious and everything. That's what I learned, which is not what a lot of the experts say on this, right? A lot of the people who teach law of attraction, they're like, just detach, and this person will come back to you, just detach, right? But we got to be careful we don't get avoidant when we're like that. We got to be very aware that we don't want to be so detached that we're actually avoidant ourselves, because then we can become like the person that we don't like in others, right? So healthy attachment is usually how we heal, from what my research is, from people who write actually books on this topic. But it's good to have a certain level of detachment, because like I used to be very attached in the past, and this is the first time that I've actually just walked away from someone displaying complete toxic behaviors that are unexpected, just like that, right? I've set a boundary. The person's decided not to uphold my boundary. In fact, they turned it around and said I was controlling them, which is not actually true, because they had the option to not uphold my boundary, which they haven't done. And it was for my own safety and well-being, right? And I walked away from that, you know? So I said I'd probably do that. I didn't say for definite, because you don't know how you're going to behave until you actually are in that situation, do you? So I said it's likely that if this happens, then I'll have to like probably not be your friend anymore, which was hard because it was my worst nightmare. But then they made it easy for me in a way, because their behavior in the end was so toxic. Unexpectedly, they're like, you've made it easy for me to walk away. Not easy in terms of like shock. I was in such deep shock. I cannot tell you. You know what I mean? But I'm like, I'm no longer physically or emotionally safe, but by what happened in this situation. And I can't even, I was literally, my heartbeat was shrieking through my body. And it was just awful, right? I didn't feel that way ever with the person before. I thought I was safe with them. I thought I could trust them. I thought they were a safe person for me. I thought they really cared about me. And then I find out, no, actually, it's not that way at all. And, you know, and this person didn't even, you know, this person, like, at the time, they were like, for a number of days, they were like, you know, blaming me. I'm like, I'm out there, you know, I can't be around someone who's physically not safe for me to be around anymore, who's dangerous for me to be around, you know. And now I think when I first met them, they told me they're not a good person. I used to think it was low self-esteem and stuff. Now I actually believe that, which I didn't before, you know. And I know they said to me before they met me they used to lie. I'm the most honest person they've known. So, you know what I mean? It's really shocking to just witness that. And I don't think they have awareness of what they're like. They still think it's me that's the problem. Do you know what I mean? I mean, they did eventually notice something. Do you know what I mean? Like, but it's like, you know, when someone says an apology, but they don't say a proper apology. And it's just like to make themselves look good. Not because they genuinely understand the behavior that's wrong. That type of thing. Double Oinside, and I've not seen this person in person since. I never intend to see them in person ever again. I mean, I'm literally not safe with them. I don't even want them anywhere near me. As I said, I'm good now, but there is times when a reference to that time period of my life might come up, and I get the weird feeling of embarrassment for a moment, and it makes me feel some shame. I'm so sorry. I want you to know, and I hope you do know this, it's not your fault. There's no shame in trusting someone who betrayed your trust. That's not your fault. I hope you know this, but sometimes it's just good to have someone tell you this, that, you know, it's not your fault that they did that to you. They were the one who took your money. They were the one who lied and betrayed you and cheated on you. None of that is your fault, and none of that is the blame of you. That's them. That's on them. And so I hope you know that that, you know, this is not your shame to carry. It's there. They should be shameful, not you. But I honour your feelings and your emotions. I'm really glad that you have been vulnerable enough. I feel honoured that you're vulnerable enough to open up like this, you know. And I hope, you know, this is a safe space. You know, if anyone obviously wasn't writing nice stuff, then I'd have to block them, because I want this to be a safe space for people. It's very important. And you know, I can understand, because I get, even from previous trauma still, I get flashbacks. I still haven't gotten over all the other trauma, you know. So, and unfortunately, this particular recent connection, they are, how can I put it? They have brought up a past trauma as well. It's like having 3 lots of betrayal at once. Right, that's all I can really say at the moment. It's like having 3 lots of betrayal, because they basically betrayed me, and they're basically joining forces with someone else who did that to me, you know. Awful. Absolutely awful. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, all this behaviour is awful. I'm really sorry you went through this, and I can understand that, you know, that it's difficult for you, and I can understand, like, the shame, but I want you to know that it's not your fault, and that it's their shameful behaviour. They should be ashamed with the way they've treated you. Do you know what I mean? Because it's on them. Their behaviour is not on you, it's on them. You know what I mean? Oh, Heather says letting go of people. That's what I mean from detachment. Thank you for confirming that, Heather. Yeah. I think that's really important. So when you're like with this person, right, I think like in terms of detachment with this person, sometimes in my head, like the other day, I was physically thinking of this person and I was feeling like I need to look at them like they're with me still in the face, and I like to kind of unhook their arms from me, you know, like in order to detach, like rather than just thinking I want to be detached if it's not working, because I find that quite hard. What I try to do is visualize me. I can't really visualize stuff when I close my eyes, but I seem to be able to visualize a lot more when I've got eyes wide open. It's a strange thing. But so I was like visualizing them in front of my face and them saying they have their arms on me, for example, hugging me or something, or just putting their arms on me to comfort me. And I was physically thinking about physically removing their arms. Like, you know, like I need to detach from you. You know, you have to physically get off me, if you know what I mean. Even though they're not physically on me, they're not with me anymore. They're not in here near me. But it's kind of like imagery that I'm putting to physically detach myself from them. I hope that makes sense. I'm like physically pulling their hands off me. Not that I'm saying their hands were like that very often anyway, but you know what I mean? Because to me, it's like, and I'm playing the last like part of the ending of the, you know, in-person time together. I'm replaying that. Luckily I took back my personal power by not allowing them to carry on having a conversation with me, because they'd made their mind up they were going to go over my boundary no matter what, right? And so I did, for a time I did this, like trying to convince them otherwise, why it's not a good idea, not just for me but for them, because they're doing something that's not even good for them in my opinion, right? Going into a situation with someone who was no good for them, let alone good for me, because that's what was happening. Because this is why it's to do my health and safety. Going back to someone that's not even good for them, that didn't even value them, you know, it's not even good for them, right? So I kind of was in the, you know, when you really like someone, you're like pleading with them, like don't do this, or like it wouldn't be good, and you're trying to reason with them and they're not listening, and then you have to just give up. So I just gave up. I'm like, it's no good, Sandra. This person's made their choice and decision. It's their choice and decision to make. That's it, right? Now you have to withdraw, because you're not safe near this person anymore because of their behavior was not good towards me, you know? It was not good. It was not calm. It was the opposite. So I'm not safe with that person anymore, right? And you know, they seem to think that they're like a saint or something. I'm like, excuse my language. I'm like, what the F, do you know what I mean? I'm like, if you think you're a saint, and you know, this person has a gall to say they're kind to everyone. And this is after they've been really bad with me. They're being bad with me, saying they're kind to everyone. I'm thinking this person is delusional. If you think you're being kind to everyone and yet you are being unkind to me, then you can't be being kind to everyone, can you? They're just delusional, and they just want to have this appearance of being great with everyone, which is just not true, because I know that they're, you know, avoidant people, for example, even by like traits of avoidancy, you know, the traits of avoidance isn't kind to everyone. Do you know what I mean? And it's not kind like siding with abusers or bullies. That's not kind to the person who's been abused or bullied. Do you know what I mean? It's just horrible. And so you know what I mean? It's just like they're just so contradictory. Right, double inside. I think it comes from the clarity I have now on the other side. Hindsight is 2020, so I see my naivety and trusting nature as embarrassing. Not sure how to change it other than never fall for it again. It's hard, right? I think we can beat ourselves up, right, for trusting. But the thing is, if we never trust anyone ever again, then our abusers have won. These people who are narcissistic, people who display toxic traits, they win, right? Because if we never ever trust anyone ever again, then they win in that way, you know. So we must make sure that we protect ourselves as much as possible. Also make sure that we're not shut off to everyone. But it's hard, because I feel the same way as you. I feel like, oh my God, like I keep analyzing the situation, thinking, I want to know what they are, you know, like, is this person actually a narcissist and I didn't realize it all along, or they just got toxic behavior, or are they just got narcissistic traits and I didn't realize it? or are they avoidant and they got, because avoidant traits overlap with narcissism, but I'm like, narcissism is about self-centeredness. Like, I've been learning the differences. The main difference is it coming from a place of ego, self-centeredness, like the world revolves around them, like they've got to keep up this image with everyone, do you know what I mean, and make out they're the perfect person type thing. I'm like, it's more of a self-centeredness. But then the other things they have, they don't have like full-blown narcissistic. So sometimes like it can just be someone has narcissistic traits even they haven't got full-blown narcissism, and some people have personality disorders and all sorts. I'm not saying that everyone with a personality disorder is bad. Everyone's got their own shit, from their past. I have my own trauma, I have to work through, I'm still working as normal, on mine. I'm not perfect myself by a long way. So yeah, I mean, I have trusting nature as well. I really have a lot of honesty and trust, but I think it's hard, isn't it? Because we have to try and learn from these relationships or friendships or connections. But it's hard because people who are serial manipulators, whether they are overtly a manipulator, like quite outwardly, like very obvious, like grandiose and you know what I mean, or whether they're very like subtle, they can subtly outweigh you. Now, if you've got someone who's deceiving you, they have probably done it before and they lie. They've done it before, usually to other people. So they're a pro at it. They're like trained in this stuff. So sometimes that we can't like foresee it, you know what I mean? But I feel the same way as you, that I want to like try and protect myself. I don't want this happening again. I mean, for me personally, I'm taking more time by myself than I've ever done. I'm not looking to go out and make a ton of friends or any friends. At the moment, if I make some friends, it's great. If I don't, there's a new online friend I have. Well, they're beginning a friendship with me, but that's early days, I'm trying to take it carefully with them, not overly message, and just like message them, like back and forth in a nice, steady manner. Because I usually really love messaging, but this person, I'm taking it nice and steady, like every other day message them or something. They got busy time at the moment, and just seeing where that goes. This is just a female person actually, but they've been quite kind to me and nice to me. We're met through the Love Life Club Confidence Challenge actually, so see where that goes. Hello to them if they're watching. And you know what I mean? So I just want to, I'm mindful not to like fall into old patterns or anything, but we have to like understand not everyone's the same. I can't go around thinking that everyone who comes into my life now is going to be narcissistic or avoidant. I can use discernment and think, okay, is this person that got narcissistic or avoidant traits? But I can't, I can't be living my whole life like that. But at the moment, what I'm doing to rebuild my life is I'm taking time out for myself, thinking it can't get any worse because I don't have any in-person friends anymore. So it's like rock bottom in that way. There's nothing to lose because I haven't got anything anymore in person, right? There's no friends I can lose because I don't have anyone in person, right? I'm still thankful. Heather, who's on here, she messages me sometimes. So thank you to that. Olivia, she's like a YouTube online friend and stuff like that. So Minky, who's often here, he messages me as well. Not on tonight. So there are people online that do message me, but in person, I don't have any in-person support for my disabilities anymore as well. And so this is quite scary. I get scared about my health scenario because if I got injured, I have no one, right? So it's kind of like really, really difficult, right? So yeah, it's hard. I mean, I do have a neighbour 2 doors up, but it's only if he happens to see me that he'll say hi to me. Do you know what I mean? The other, like a couple of weeks ago, he saw me, like 2 or 3 weeks ago, he saw me like having heavy shopping, came down just to like, but that's the last time he's done it. I think it was like 3 weeks ago, maybe even now. But anyway, I was grateful for his help. Do you know what I mean? And he happened to be outside once when I had to go to hospital. I was by myself anyway, I had to go, but he made sure he flagged the taxi down. So he's a nice neighbour. But obviously I can't call him a friend. We don't have any other interaction other than like out in the corridor type of thing occasionally, right? But you know what I mean? So I don't think like I've got nothing to lose because I haven't got any friends anymore in person. And that actually puts me in a position of power with myself. And also it's like I said with Iron Man, it's like the clean slate protocol. It's like, right, fine, no in-person friends now. That's fine. They've all gone. And you can begin again, right? And beginning again for me, looks like the fact that I have to build my own confidence up more, my own self-esteem up more. I have to go through this grieving process. I have to learn to look after myself better on my own. I have to learn to like do things more for myself in terms of my disabilities. I might because I've got a lot of disabilities. I might have to have a carer or social worker at some point. I don't want to rely on other people, but there are certain things, like say I broke a bone because I'm more susceptible to fractures, then obviously I would need help. I can't, like, I've got 2 flights of stairs to get up. And even when I order stuff from Amazon, they don't bring it to my door. I still have to go down 2 flights of stairs to get it. So if something was to happen like that, then I have no one, right? My parents, like, have got have got health issues themselves. My dad's got COPD, can't even get up the stairs. He's on permanent oxygen. My mum has to care for him. She's got her own health issues. They can't look after me or anything like that, right? I know that. That's not their fault. It's just the way it is. Right, so they don't live near me either. My mum doesn't drive. My mum cares for my dad. So my mum's diabetic and stuff like that, right? So, and she has a rare eye condition as well. She has to go to hospital for. So yeah. But what I'm trying to say is I am actually literally on my own. But I'm so proud of myself for walking away when I have no other friends, because I would not have done that years ago. I would never have done that. I would have stayed in the situation, and I would have still been that person's friend and put up with the behavior that I was horrible, in the end. And it would be to my own detriment, because I wouldn't have the courage and guts to do that, because I think, well, I haven't got anyone or anything. But now, because I have got some self-esteem still, after I have got some love and I've been on my own, I kept reminding myself, Sandra, you've lived on your own for years, absolutely years, right? And so it proves that you can take care of yourself. Like, you've got more disabilities now, because obviously I broke my spine last year and I got osteopenia, even though I don't have the markers for osteopenia. I'm under 50, still have periods, calcium levels fine, vitamin D levels fine, no smoking, no drinking, no drugs, no osteoporosis or osteopenia in my family. So I'm under the pain management team at the hospital now. So, but I'm more susceptible to fractures, because when they did the DEXA scan, I've got osteopenia in like my hips and lower bone density in my spine. So it's hard for me. I'm scared. I do wake up scared about that, but I'm trying to put things in place. I've emailed my doctor about that, and I'm trying to see what other help I might be able to get, or what other suggestions people have. So it's all about looking after my own health and safety now. I've got a set of phones, but I haven't set them up yet. So I have a phone in every room. So if I have a fall in different rooms, it means, well, the bathroom, I can't have a permanent phone in there. I can only take a phone in with me. But, it's like a phone in, I'm going to have a phone in every room, so that I'm able to, if I have an injury, that I'm able to phone, I don't know, I'd have to phone for an ambulance if I really needed to, do you know what I mean? But phone my parents, they can't. My mum could get up the stairs, my dad can't, but my mum can't really do anything. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, so, I'm having to take precautions. I'm having to look after myself. So I think when you've had a toxicity like this, it's better to give yourself time to come to terms with it, to go through the grieving process. This means, you're trying to, when someone's basically gaslighted you and blurred your reality and said everything was fine when clearly it wasn't, because if it was, then they wouldn't have had the behavior they had at the end, right? So you know what I mean? It's basically gaslighting, blurred the reality, deceived, lied, betrayed, all this type of stuff. You don't know what's true and what isn't. So you do have to give yourself closure that you'll never know. You can only try and work out, looking back on it, what you think really happened. Obviously, you can understand your own feelings, that you were right about that stuff. So you can look back at your own feelings. And that, that you have to kind of look back and, I'm trying to work out what it is, because I didn't think this person was narcissistic at all. And then when I'm the last bit of their behavior, well, there was some other little things that are toxic behaviors, but the last bit of their performance, if you like, the last bit of what they were like, I'm like, oh my God, this is just classic narcissistic traits. What the fuck is going on? Excuse my language. I'm like, I can't even believe it. It's like, I'm in disbelief. Even now I have shock over what happened. The dangerous stuff, I'm like, this is just dangerous for you, Sandra. You just what I mean? So I won't go back to that person. I'm like, as far as I'm concerned, I don't want them anywhere physically near me. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, it's really difficult. And, and they clearly don't realize the extent of their behavior, right? Even when they eventually days later apologized to me, which I don't think was to do with me. I just think it made them I don't think it was really I'm really that sorry. I think it was more looking good, if you know what I mean. And they say about damaging the connection. I'm thinking damage is a fucking, excuse my language, understatement. It's like they annihilated the whole connection. They didn't just damage it. Do you know what I mean? That's what I mean. They're not even taking it really seriously, what they've done. They're not really that accountable if all they're going like, oh, I'm sorry, very sorry I damaged the connection. It's like, what the fuck? Excuse my language. It's like you didn't deny it just to damage it. You fucking well and annihilated it and all my trust I ever had in you. And you pretty much showed me that you've been deceiving me since at least October 2023 or more. And that all this toxic behaviours, like you seem to think there's nothing wrong with that. Honestly, you know what I mean? So it's just horrible. Absolutely horrible. I'm still in shock and disbelief, really, that the person could behave like this, especially because they know what a narcissist is, and I thought they didn't like them. And I thought they knew those behaviours and never to behave like that. So I'm just absolutely in shock. I'm like, but some people can have like toxicity and toxic traits and narcissistic behaviours, but they don't necessarily, you know, they don't actually means they've got full narcissistic personality disorder. But even so, any toxic traits, whether avoidant, narcissistic, or whatever attachment style, whatever personality disorder, it doesn't really matter about that. And about the labels as much as it matters. Are these toxic behaviours, yes or no? And if they are, then you need to get out of that situation. Double Oinside. Thanks, Sandra. Yes, you reminded me it wasn't my fault. It's a big help. I'm glad you know it wasn't your fault. Sometimes it's easy to forget the issue was a perpetrator, not me falling for it. We can all judge ourselves too harshly, I think. Yeah. I recently went to Love Life Live last week, and I spoke to Matthew Hussey. He answered my question live. I can't go into that. It's a very personal question, which I can't talk about on here, right? And it was a lot to do with trauma, to do with past trauma and the current situation, and you know what I mean. And I that's about all I can say. But I was also getting some help from his brother as well, Stephen, who's a coach, right? And it was really lovely because Stephen gave me some advice on the way to there was like a pub we were having a drinks at afterwards, and he gave me some advice on the way, and he said that he thinks that I personally am too critical of myself and I judge myself too harshly. So I do think that I'm glad I could help you and see that you probably are very critical and judgmental of yourself when that's not your fault. The fact they cheated on you, broke your trust, did all that horrible stuff to you, they did that to you. You didn't do that to yourself. They did that to you. You just was honest. You trusted them. You believed in them so much so that obviously you thought your friends were wrong about them. And I've been in that position. I don't do that anymore, but I was in the position years ago when people told me. Actually, it was a friend that told me about my last long-term ex, and that's one he forbid me to talk to her ever again. He's like, I don't want you ever talking to her ever again. Like, that's a form of control. It's a direct thing. Like, I don't want you ever talking to her ever again. But he's still allowed to have friends. He didn't want me to talk to her for, he didn't want me to talk to her because she was actually right about him, that he wasn't treating me well. And she's like, I'm really sorry, but he's not treating you well. And he saw the message from her, and then he's like, I don't want you speaking to her ever again. Do you know what I mean? Like, and she hadn't done anything wrong. Do you know what I mean? She'd just been nice to me and told me that this person wasn't good for me. She hadn't done anything directly to him, but obviously he saw the fact that I was talking to her as a betrayal because he wasn't a good person. She saw that he wasn't good for me, and so she said that to me. Do you know what I mean? So then he kind of forbid me from ever talking to her ever again. Heather, learn to trust slowly with boundaries. Yeah. It's hard because I was never taught boundaries growing up, so I'm still learning about boundaries, but I'm so glad that I did have the boundary I had with that, person. And, obviously they decided to disregard my boundary and frame it as control, which is awful because then I was left questioning, well, was I controlling them? But then I've watched videos and they're like, no, that was a boundary. And I've also got some advice as well. Coaching advice that no, it wasn't control. You set a boundary for your own health and safety. You weren't saying they had to do that. You were saying this is the consequences of what happens if they decide to do that. And so it's still their choice to do it, right? You were saying that if this happens, you're likely going to have to walk away from the friendship. That's not you telling them they must never ever do that thing ever again. That's you saying, if they do this thing, then you can't likely be friends with them. You'll have to walk away, which is what I did do. I'm so proud of myself for doing that, though, because I bet they were quite shocked probably that I could even do that. But I think they just wanted out anyway. When a person behaves like that, they don't really care, because they knew it would end the friendship, so they can't have valued me that much in the end anyway. Instead, they valued someone who is not good themselves. The person, you know what I mean? They're valuing someone who's toxic over me. I'm like, who didn't even value them in the end, or me, you know, the person who deceived me, basically. So it's like a double deception, a double betrayal, and I'm like, wow, really? Oh my God. I don't even know why anyone would side with someone who is psychologically abusive. You know, a deceiver is psychologically abusive. It's psychological and emotional abuse because you don't know the reality of the situation. They blurred your reality. This is the person they're reconnecting with blurred my reality for over 5 years. Well, 5+ years. You know what I mean? And they've probably been blurring my reality. Well, they have, haven't they? To a certain extent. So anyway, I think maybe they're suited. These two people, deceivers, betray, toxic behaviors. Maybe that's why they get on, or will get on, so well. They can both be avoidant together and take unaccountability and unresponsibility for things. Perfect, isn't it? You know, no growth there, just toxicity and avoidancy and surface level conversations. But yeah, I'm absolutely still shocked, really. But I am coming to terms with it. I feel like I can look after myself better now. I feel like I feel more bubbly sometimes. So sometimes I feel really upset, and other times I feel bubbly. So in order to rebuild my life and my confidence, so I'm spending more time on my own intentionally. So though you could say, well, you're on your own anyway because you don't have any in-person friends, it's different. I'm intentionally spending my time with myself. So I'm consciously saying, okay, Sandra, what can you do in this moment to look after yourself? Like, what can you do? Like, if I can do some weights, that helps me with my strength. So it helps me feel better and stronger in myself, that I'm able to have some physical strength more. If I'm taking a shower, I'm thinking, you know, this is nice. You know, I had a facial scrub on earlier. Took about an hour in the shower. I at least take usually 40 minutes. This is good, right? Doing some of my AI bot book, my writing, you know, leaning into my writing, making me feel calm, you know, getting myself nice foods, cooking for myself, doing shopping. I went shopping earlier, you know, with my shopping trolley, right? It hurts. My body hurts doing that, but I'm doing it for myself. So I'm not just spending time with myself. I'm consciously working out, like, how can I look after myself? How can I make myself physically stronger? How can I still be me? But I feel an attraction more from other people now. I've noticed that more and more people are attracted to my bubbly, lively personality that I've always had. Whereas I don't think that person appreciated my bubbly personality. I think they more like saw it as something that wasn't that great, right? Or they didn't appreciate it. They took it for granted or didn't appreciate it. And maybe it's not really on their vibe. But since I've actually been on my own and this person's out of my life, essentially, they're not completely 100% out of my life, unfortunately, because I'm still tied to them in some way, but, you know, out as much as possible, then I've noticed people's difference. I've noticed there was a young girl talking to me at the bus stop. She was so interested in talking to me. We're talking about our holiday. She was asking me questions about myself. She was on the bus and even said goodbye, take care, you know. So she really was digging my personality. I spoke to someone outside John Lewis where I used to work, a manager. We got talking, really got on well with him. And then I saw him earlier as well. You know, and I just noticed that, you know, like I smile at some Indian guys and their face lights up. I had that earlier. I say hi and I just feel better for being me, you know. I feel like I can be me myself more now because I can be my bubbly, energetic self. And I've got more of a vibrancy and energy about me again because I'm getting my confidence back again in myself. I'm getting my, you know, like my bubbly personality where people appreciate me. People want to know about me. People want to know about my life. People take an interest. Like the new person who's like making friends with me online, they're really interested. They're asking me lots of questions about myself. They're having reciprocity. You know, obviously you have to monitor this over time with any new people that come into your life. But what I'm saying is even just me being on my own, talking to people as strangers, right? I'm having really good results, right? Because I feel like now I'm more, instead of focusing on them, because I was very focused on them and I was focused on the imbalance and the connection for a long time. And felt I had to keep having difficult conversations with this person, and I had to keep trying to sort the connection out so it would be on an even keel again. But you see, that's very exhausting because it was me doing most of the work in that respect. Like, sure, they would change their behavior, which is different to a narcissist, so that's why I don't think they're a full-blown narcissist in that way. But however, they were doing it in a way that I felt they were just doing it to appease me, not because they genuinely wanted to change their behavior, if you know what I mean. They were doing it just to avoid conflict, keep the peace, and appease me, probably more than actually because they genuinely wanted a deeper connection, because they genuinely wanted, you know, to take more of an interest in me or stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? So if it's not for the right reasons, then it's not good. I feel this from the body language as well, you know what I mean? And I feel that's, you know, I feel if I didn't say anything, nothing would have changed. And, you know, if people are not doing it for the right reasons, it's not really ingrained, it's not really something innate in them, is it? Do you know what I mean? So, you know, I do think there is differences. I mean, there's some things, you know, they had quite a bit of empathy for me in the beginning of the connection, but like towards the end, a lot of it was stuff I said, I'm like thinking, God, you know what I mean? I don't understand why they're not empathetic about this. So yeah, but the very, very end, it was like no empathy whatsoever. So it was all about them, really. So yeah, that's difficult. But yeah, so I'm consciously spending time with myself. That doesn't mean just I'm unconsciously going, oh, I'm with myself now. No, I'm consciously thinking, be with yourself, Sandra. You can't lose anything. You've got nothing to lose now. And try to calm my nervous system down, because my nervous system is very like all over the place. Because, you know, when you're anxious attached and that person's avoidant attached, and then things turn out the way they are, it just like is not good. So I'm trying to calm my own nervous system down, be with myself, because I've got a lot of health issues, and being in trauma and you know, like, it's not a good state to be in. And I'm doing more things for myself. So I'm still going out to the cinema, self-dating. I'm trying to make sure I do that at least once a week, the majority of the time. Behind the scenes, I'm still like doing some stuff where I'm, you know, like I can't really tell you, but there's some legal stuff where I'm advocating for myself going on. And so, you know, and I'm doing obviously a lot of short videos. I'm going out more as well, so you might have noticed I'm going out to more places on my own. Coming up, I've got a meetup, a social event to go to. I've only been to that once before, last month, so I'm going to that. And then this is to improve my social skills. So whether I make any friends or not, it doesn't matter. The group's designed to make friends, but I just want to like meet people, you know. I'm not going to like think I'm going to jump into a friendship, right? Because I think when you've gone through trauma, whether it's a friendship or relationship, you need time to heal. Usually, you know, if you've had narcissistic abuse, an actual narcissistic relationship, you need like a year to heal. But obviously, I don't want to be without any friends on purpose, just so, you know, for the purpose of healing, and not open myself up to any possible friendships. But I am aware that, you know, it could take a good year before I'm even really fully thinking about friendships. But I don't want to cut myself off, because at the end of the day, that person's won then, haven't they? They're isolating me. So, you know, and I'm not growing, you know what I mean? So I'm still open to people, but I'm still very guarded with the fact that, okay, I don't want to rely on this person too much. I don't want to get to messaging them straight away like I did with the other person. I don't want to get too invested in them. I want to do it evenly, on an even keel, and I just want to like, I'm trying to like do different behaviors, but also I'm trying to like spend more time with myself consciously to make myself feel better, look after my health and well-being, build my strength up, because I need to build my confidence up, my self-esteem up, my self-worth up, and everything like that. So in order to do that, I need to spend more time with myself and work on myself, you know what I mean? Because, you know, when someone's gaslighted you, blamed you, and said all things to put you down, basically, and made out that they're a saint, you blame yourself for a while, you know. But I'm getting out of the state of blaming myself and thinking, well, that's not that behavior is toxic. It doesn't matter what label they are. All those things that I've said are completely toxic, right? And because I wanted to know, like, how am I to blame? So I was watching loads of videos, having coaching and all that type of thing. And I'm thinking, well, do you know what I mean? You gave your best to that connection. You gave your very best. You left that person in a better state than they left you. And interestingly, it's very imbalanced, because in the end, I became less down about myself. I mean, sorry, I became more down about myself. They became the opposite. They were like all sorted. It looked like on the surface they got their shit together. But obviously, with the fact they behave like that in the end. They haven't really got their shit together. They just think they have. And they're probably like delusional with themselves, right? Because if you got your shit together, you don't behave like that in the end. You don't behave with all those toxicity traits, right? You really don't, right? But at the end of the day, you know, like I was, you know, I know that I've left that person better than when I found them, because they have changed in some ways for the better since they've been with me. And clearly, like, some ways are now mixed with ways that I didn't realise that are not good. And they probably had this like kind of mask on all along, right? So, but, you know, I know they're still in a better place than they were when I first met them, whereas I was in a worse place at the end than when they met me, right? So I've gone downhill, and that's a sign that the relationship is imbalanced, or friendship or whatever it is, and is imbalanced, and there's toxicity going on, right? Where you are feeling less than you used to be and they are feeling more than, right? You should both be bringing each other up and both be equally invested and both be like growing together. One shouldn't be more than the other. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's very important to look how you feel and monitor the situation. So, you know, I've applied to join a writing meetup this Friday, right? Which is now, I think we're on Thursday in the UK because it's gone into Thursday now, I'm sure. But so I've never been to this writing meetup before. They got a speaker on, so I've applied to see if I can go. Because it says for writers and readers. It says for people who love to write, but it's talking about what do you like to read, and I don't really like reading that very much, because I'm a writer that doesn't like reading that much. It's very unusual. And so I don't know if they've got a part of the meetup where you have to like read books to each other and talk about it, right? Because, or the only reading I usually do, the majority of the time, is research for my own books. And then occasionally I read non-fiction, but not that often. I learn best through audio, which is, video, which is why I like obviously doing these videos for you. Because that's how I learn best. But I do read some books, but not very, very often, or bits of them. You know what I mean? Usually it's like reading articles online or watching videos and stuff like that. Everyone has different learning styles. So I'm really slow at reading. So it just takes me hours even to edit my own work. So so I'm going to try different meetups. So what I'm trying to do is gain my confidence back by going on self-dates to the cinema, making the entertainment feel good for myself. I watch Disney Plus movies to calm myself down. So I'm learning techniques to calm myself down. And then I'm having to grieve as well, because I wake up feeling awful. As the day progresses, I feel a lot better because I'm doing things, being independent, helping myself. But when I wake up, I feel awful, you know, because it's quite scary when you don't have anyone else like supporting you anymore with your disabilities. If anything happened to me, I don't know what I would do, you know what I mean? Like, it would be hard for me, but I'm still glad I walked away from this person, because I'm so proud of myself, because the most courage it takes is when you walk away from someone, you've got nothing else in place of that person, right? That takes the most amount of courage ever. And I know I couldn't have done that years ago. Since I've been in the Love Life Club for over a year now, getting like hands-on like coaching, like when I say hands-on coaching, it's like group coaching, although I have had some personal coaching within the group coaching. You know what I mean? You end up understanding more about toxic behaviors and things. And you end up understanding your worth more, and that you can walk away, and you have to. So, because if you don't walk away, this person always has power over you and control over you. So you have to walk away. But it takes guts. I know what I did takes so much courage. You know, when you've got nothing and you're going from something to nothing, and you're willing to walk away, and you do it and follow through, it's just like, it's very empowering actually. But also it's scary at the same time. So I think you have to honor the scariness of the situation, honor how you're feeling, honor all the grief, that the anger you feel, the resentment you feel, the upset and pain you feel, the betrayal, the hurt, the like trying to figure out what the hell went on. And then you have to give yourself closure with the fact that, you know, you don't know who they are anymore. That person is gone. That you thought, that friend, that connection I had with that person, it doesn't even exist anymore. It didn't exist from the moment they revealed their true colours, right? And the mask fell or whatever, you know, and I don't even know what happened, right? I'm like, what the hell went on? You know, this person behaved this way, this person behaves this way. They're two completely different people. Like watching split personalities or something is very weird. Unfold in front of your eyes. So, but then, you know, like self-date, So this, when you self-date, this is intentionally going somewhere on your own to date yourself, right? Dress up for yourself. I dress up for myself to look good. I wear clothes that make me feel good. I buy myself some new items as well. And so there's also a process called like reclaiming. So there's certain things, like when there's certain things that will remind you of that person, right? It'll be memories that will remind you of them. So it might be people, places, or things, right? And what you have to do is you have to decide to get rid of that thing. So you basically sell it or send it to charity or rip it up, put it in the bin if you want to get rid of it. Or you have to like, you can relabel it, so put a different stance on it or something. Or you can reclaim it as your own. So if I go to this writing meetup, it's in a place where I went to with this person, right? And it's not far from the public place where things ended. And so, ended up in the shocker situation of all the toxic behaviors, right? And so that wasn't, there was a little bit more. That wasn't I didn't, I had to wait till they'd gone before things were completely over, if you know what I mean. But and so anyway, what I'm trying to say is there comes a point where you have to when you're on your own, you have to put your own needs first, and you have to build your own confidence and strength up again. Because this, the people that are toxic, they completely annihilate your confidence. They try to, right? I don't even know if this person realizes that I could do without them, but I definitely can do without them. I have done without them. I am doing without them, which is really empowering for me. And so, by the fact that you're just doing without them, that you're getting on with your life, that you're okay without them, that proves to yourself that your own self-worth and stuff like that, right? And so, this writing place I was telling you about, this meetup, it was a place that I went to with this person, and it's near the place where things got really toxic, right? So I have bad memories of there. But by going and having a meetup with hopefully lovely people, will put new memories in place of that. And that's like reclaiming that space as my own, reclaiming that area, reclaiming that space, reclaiming that venue as my own. So if you've been in a toxic situation, relationship, you can't get rid of absolutely everything, right? But you can reclaim it and say, look, this person doesn't get to have this. They don't get to have this space, this place. They don't get to do this. Because obviously being around that place is going to be very traumatic still for me, right? When you're around the place where the toxicity was, the person flared up, that whatever happened, right? You're gonna be like, oh my god, I don't even want to go near there again because I'm scared, right? Because I remember what happened. It brings it all back. But by being in a space with other people and even going there just by yourself and reclaiming it and working through those emotions, you can put your own stance on it and say, I'm not going to allow that. I'm not going to allow this person to have this hold over me. And it's reclaiming your space. I hope that makes sense. So go through this kind of system where you're either getting rid of, you're relabeling something, or you're replacing something. I haven't gone through all this yet. It's a process that I go through. I think you have to be gentle with yourself, give yourself time. Ideally, if you have had toxicity, you want to be kind of you really, if you had a full, proper narcissistic relationship, you need at least usually a year to heal. But obviously, if you've got no friends whatsoever, if it's a friendship scenario, then I'm not going to cut myself off from every potential friendship just because of what happened with them. But I am going to be a lot more cautious and decide that the most important person I'm with for the rest of this year and for the whole year is myself. The most important person is me, to make myself strong, to build myself up, my self-esteem and everything, but also to still not let that person and not allow me to be kind and caring. But I just have to be kind and caring in a more discerning way. And know if someone comes into my life that goes, oh, I'm a really bad person, I'm not good to people, I hurt people, believe them next time, And if they say they used to lie, then think, do you really even want that person in your life? Because if they're a liar, it's probably better you just say, well, I just can't be around someone who's lied, even if they do lie in the past. I know some people can change and they don't lie anymore, which I thought was what they did, but clearly that's not the case. So I think you have to give yourself time to heal, and healing is a long process because you have to get over all the grief, through the grief. So people often talk about getting over something, but you have to go through it. So this means you have to feel the feelings and emotions. You have to sit and think, oh my God, I'm so upset now. This person betrayed me. They deceived me. They gaslighted me. They blamed me. They deflected. This is toxic behaviors. I didn't see this coming. Like, not all this stuff. I had a feeling, but they kept saying nothing's wrong. Nothing's wrong. So that was gaslighting, basically. And that's on them. That's not on me. But, you know, it's not fair to me. And they did me wrong. But I just have to know that I did the right thing by leaving that situation and by getting myself to safety. And I've just got to, like, think, right, you're out of that situation now. Just imagine if you just stayed in that situation for any longer. You know, that's over 7 years of my life I've known that particular person, right? And so it's not someone that's just come into my life briefly. It's a long time, right? But just imagine if I stay in that connection for another 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever years. That would be so much of a waste of my life. So I have to be grateful and thankful that things have ended the way they have, even though I'm not grateful and thankful for all the you know, the feeling of being unsafe because of the way they behave to me, which is, like, not nice. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying, I think, you know what I mean? So, you know, I don't deserve, like, to be gaslighted and blamed and all this type of thing, and for someone to act like they're more superior than me and all that stuff, you know what I mean? I don't deserve that at all. I didn't deserve any of that treatment. You know, I've always asked that person, like, how can I be a better friend to them? They never asked that to me. They've always said I'm understanding to them, you know? So I just, like, I have to understand that it's not good that this has happened. I'm not saying I'm a saint at all, right? I'm not saying that, you know, like, I'm not saying that everything I've ever done with this person is perfect. Myself, I've already said that they've pulled me up a couple of times on the fact I had an angry tone and, you know, stuff like that. So I want you to know that I'm not perfect. You know, I do things, I try not to do them, but obviously I'm not perfect. And, you know, and it's unfortunate because this person did theoretically, well, they did do a lot for me in terms of, like, acts of service, if you like, but the motive of why they were doing that was not necessarily for my benefit, if you know what I mean. So, you know what I mean? It's not like they've never done anything for me. It's not like they did show some empathy in the past as well. And they were consistent in some ways. But you know what I mean? At the end of the day, even if they've done that, but if they were deceiving and lied and betrayed in the end, you know, that all that other behavior, yeah, in the moment, I'm glad that for the help that was, but I know that wasn't just driven to help me. I know that there was an ulterior motive behind that, to do with themselves, because they even told me. So, which is transactional, which is not actually proper connection and friendship anyway. But, you know, which I'm learning more about now. So I'm like, oh, I thought it was, like, fine, but clearly not. So, you know, I've got to learn from this. And I think every time we have a friendship, relationship, connection, dating scenario, I think we do learn things from it. But sometimes we have to just learn that we just have to walk away and take our personal power back and realize that sometimes our gut instinct is absolutely right and they were wrong to deny that, you know? I think that's hard because it makes it hard for you to trust yourself. But I think if you spend a lot more time with yourself, I'm purposely spending time with myself. Whether I have a friendship or not in person, I'm okay on my own because I've been on my own for years, like living on my own. Sometimes you can be in a friendship connection, but if that feels one-sided, and you end up feeling imbalanced, you were very alone anyway. Like, I know that it felt imbalanced a number of times, right? And so even though I was in that connection, there was times when I did cry, which they didn't know about. And it really upset me because I was like, this is imbalanced. Like, they seem to not value me as much as I value them. And of course, I was right about that now. I was absolutely right about the feeling they do not value me as much as I value them. They used to in the very beginning of our connection, I think. But in the end, they didn't, right? And their actions proved that. Their behavior proved that as well. But do you know what I mean? So it's hard. It's hard when we're faced with the reality of a situation that we don't even know what the reality was. Do you know what I mean? And obviously the closure is that their behavior is just unacceptable. Really unacceptable, you know? And the way they were talking about, I'm willing to talk about it. They said something like, I'm willing to talk about it. I'm thinking, you still don't understand that you're in the wrong, do you? The way they're like, I'm willing to talk about it, I'm thinking there's nothing more to talk about. I've talked till I'm blue in the face and you're going to go over my boundary anyway. Which is, you know, if you want to do that, I'm out of there. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm willing to talk to you. It's like a very high and mighty kind of superiority. That's not how someone talks to you. If they want to have a real conversation, they're like, I'm really sorry I hurt you. You know, I'd really love to talk to you and see if there's any possibility of a way forward for our friendship, you know, and I know I hurt you, and list the behaviors that were bad, right? And own up to them, right? I'm willing to talk to you. Do you know what I mean? Like, such a superiority complex. Do you know what I mean? That's not how you speak to someone who you really care about and you genuinely see them on your level. That's just like, I'm willing to talk to you. I'm thinking, really, you're willing to talk to me, but I'm willing to talk to you after the way you were with me, and I'm not safe around you anymore. I've already talked to you till I'm blue in the face. There's nothing more to say. You've made your decision. I've made mine, and that's it. You know, I need to get the hell out of there, which I've done now as much as possible. So, yeah, I just know that if you're going through what I'm going through, or similar stuff, or you've been through worse or whatever, I'm really, really, really sorry. You know what I mean? It's really hard, you know, especially when you don't expect it from someone. I think that's, you know, when you just like, because this, in the end, it was like they had a completely different personality. It's like, I don't even know who this person is anymore. This is not the person I thought they were. The person I thought they were would not display these behaviours. But obviously there was stuff looking back where they did have some bad behaviour sometimes. But I thought it was like few and far between. And I thought, well, I let it go. Like, it was something they said at the train station to me. Like, I think it was last year. And it was like saying that I'm the crazy one. You know, when someone gaslights you and wants you to think that you're a really bad person, there's something severely wrong with you and you're crazy or whatever. It wasn't, they didn't say the word crazy, but it was like that type of thing. And I knew that was wrong. And I felt at the time, but I blocked it out. I kind of thought, well, if you're going to be friends, I felt unsafe then when they said this to me, because I never thought they thought that of me. And then I felt unsafe, but I kind of blocked it out. I thought, well, they did say sorry for that. They're like, oh, sorry, I said that. But I thought that must be what you really think. Because at the end of the day, if you said that, why would you even say it? And it wasn't even in context. It was some weird situation that's got nothing to do with that. So I don't even think it was in context, you know? And so, yeah, I just, you know, looking back, you know, you can see, and there was definitely something I felt was off, if you know what I mean. The dynamic had changed, but they kept saying it hadn't. So it's just awful. You know, if you're going through anything with person blurring your reality, a person deceiving you, a person betraying you, I can only, you know, say I'm so sorry. And if you have the courage to walk away, please do, because it's better for me to be alone now than it is for me to have stayed in that situation, which was untenable. Like, I couldn't even do it anymore. I was physically not safe around them because of, you know, well, not the fist, but that, you know, that's all I'm going to say. The face, not the fist, but the face. Right. I think you get the picture, right? But yeah, so, you know, when someone's like that, I'm like, I'm out of there. You know, I recognize that type of behavior from my past, last long term, really abusive ex, and I know where that ends, and it's not good. So, you know what I mean? I'm glad I'm out of it. I'm glad that I had the courage to walk away. I'm glad that I stuck to my guns and I actually did follow through, even though it's difficult. I know I don't want to ever go back to that person again, ever. They wouldn't want me back anyway, I don't think, because they wouldn't have behaved like that. They basically ended it without ending it. I ended it because I walked away. So I'm not going to stand for that type of behaviour. But by them overstepping my boundary, they knew that it would end the friendship anyway. So they kind of ended it without ending it, and I ended it. But I'm the one who walked away, so I'm not giving that power to them, because I'm the one who walked away from them. They probably, like, I don't know if they had a bit of disbelief that I'd actually walk away from them. They might have done, I don't know. But it doesn't really matter what they think, does it? All that matters is that I'm now safe in my home and they're nowhere physically near me. And I can't trust that person ever again. And they're not emotionally or physically safe for me to be near. Do you know what I mean? And I'm grateful that at least I don't have to spend the rest of my life thinking they're a kind and caring person towards me when they're not really. Do you know what I mean? They're obviously harbouring other things in their mind, which is deception, and they lied to me. Because basically 2.5 weeks before they were like saying this wouldn't happen. And they've actually created the situation that they said that they wouldn't let this person come between us, and instead they've gone to the person to get that person between us. It's really weird. So it's a complete lie. I'm not very happy about it, but, you know, I'm glad that I'm left. You know, I'm glad that I can rebuild my life now, because obviously I have to rebuild my friendships now. I have to look for new friend circles, look for new people. But I'm okay on my own for a bit. I feel it's good to just take time by myself. I don't want to because I know when I went to the Love Life Club, like Stephen Hussey was saying, it's now time to rebuild your life and get new friendships and, build those social circles, which I do agree. But for me personally, I just want to be with myself for a bit because I've had so much trauma in life. I don't want to end up going to another situation where I feel traumatized or this push-pull and even I just rather calm my own nervous system down so that I'm going to view people on a more even keel rather than this and anxious, right? I think I'm more likely to choose wrong people to be friends with me again if I come at an anxious point of view and a really traumatized point of view that I am if I try to calm my nervous system down and be okay on my own. If I'm okay on my own and I don't need to be with anyone, then I'm in a more position of power of myself, personal power, where I don't have to get in toxicity again. The danger is when I'm in the vulnerable state I'm in, that I could allow someone in that might be toxic again. But, no one knows for certain who's going to be toxic and who's not, do they? You know what I mean? I can't live my whole life sheltered worrying about if a person's going to be toxic again or not. So, not let anyone in, because I don't want to end up being so avoidant, like the person that's done me wrong, because then I'm just like them. Do you know what I mean? I need to still be open without being so open that I'm just blatantly trusting anyone, if you know what I mean. I hope that helps. And it's really important to look after your self-care, get foods that nourish you, look after your health and well-being, do things that make you feel strong in your body, mind and soul, reconnect with your passions, get back to your own personality, because if you've had someone who doesn't really appreciate you, doesn't really value you, your personality is not going to be as lively as it used to be, not going to be as caricatural. So I'm really leaning into my own bubbly personality, and people are really responding well. So I know that I'm on the right track because of other people's behavior towards me. It's warm and welcoming and really leaning into me, really taking an interest in me, and these are all positive signs that I'm on the right track. Right? If I was being myself and people are oh no, but they're not. They're wow, they're really smiley and happy to be around me. So I feel like my bubbly, energetic self's coming back, and that I'm able to just, be around my people and be myself more, instead of feeling like I'm devalued and not appreciated as much as, and feeling like an imbalance. Finally, I don't have that anxiety, because I used to have a lot of anxiety in that connection. Right? Because I used to be constantly I used to be having to try and repair the imbalance I felt, by having difficult conversations and stuff like this. But it was weird because a person this year, back in March, they just started talking to me like an acquaintance when I was supposed to be really, really amazing friends with them. They were they just started speaking to me like I was an acquaintance or something. I'm thinking, what the hell is going on? So I had to speak to them about that. But surely they must have known that they were changing their behavior. Or if they didn't, maybe they're just devaluing. Because obviously, if they're a narcissist or even a avoidant, they can devalue and discard you. So I personally think the discard and devalue has been going on since I felt a shift in the dynamic since October 2023, if not before then. I feel they've been gradually devaluing me over time, because the March, it was really weird. It's you're talking to me like some person down the pub that you just said hi to or something. What the hell's going on? Do you know what I mean? You're just completely shifting behavior. So, and then when I talked to them about it, they apologized and changed their behavior again. So it was better again. But, it's not good having this up and downness. They should be balance in a healthy friendship or relationship. They should be this balance and evenness, and you shouldn't feel constantly up and down or an imbalance. You should feel like they value you equally. They care about you equally. They're invested in understanding you. They want to know about you. They ask you questions about yourself. They're curious, right? And they're enthusiastic. And if that's not the case, then something's very wrong, really, isn't it? But it was very weird in March. But then they rectified that behavior. So I thought, well, maybe they were just oblivious. Maybe they just didn't realise, or they were having problems and difficulties with themselves or something. Because sometimes the behaviour, it's not actually to do with you. It's just what's going on in them. Do you know what I mean? And they don't even realise they're doing it. So, you know what I mean? So you have to give people the benefit of the doubt sometimes. Because people have their own shit they're dealing with. And they do, does affect them. Do you know what I mean? And so if someone's avoidant, they avoid talking about their emotions, whereas I'm a person who needs to talk about my emotions to get it out. And it's very healthy to talk about emotions. So obviously try and get a therapist to talk to them. If you want to speak to an AI bot, use AI in the right way. You know, if you've got any friends, I don't have any other friends to talk to, but if you've got any other friends to talk to them about it. Do you know what I mean? People you trust. And if you don't have people you trust, then trust yourself and build trust up within yourself, you know, and really get engrossed in your own hobbies and interests. Try something different, because I'm hopefully trying this writing group on Friday. I already know what I'm writing, but it's meant to be for people who like to write and meet up and a speaker who's a writer. So I'm going to try it hopefully, and then that's something different. So what I'm trying to do is broaden my social circle. Like the meetup that's today now, because it's over midnight in the UK. So it'll be like, we've just gone from Wednesday to Thursday, but it's like Thursday AM, like early. I think it's like, what time is it? All right, it's 1:31 AM. So later tonight, like 7:30 PM, I'm going to a social meetup. And at the moment, there's due to be 100 people at this meetup. That's a lot of people. Not everyone will turn up, I don't think, but 100 people. It's like, oh my God, they have a function room and everything. You don't have to pay for the function room. You just have to buy your own drinks. But I'm like, oh my God. So I should meet some people, but I'm trying to get out of my comfort zone. I'm trying to get my confidence back, because, you know, sometimes these people purposely like lower your confidence, or they do it in increments, you know, and so that you don't believe you can connect with people as much. You believe people won't like you. You believe that, you know, you're not valuable in the world anymore, or you just have a lot of self-esteem and self-belief issues, and you worry about things. But no, by going out and doing things and doing all things by myself, things I used to rely on that person for quite a lot as well, is putting my own personal power back within myself and allowing me to progress and get more confident in myself again, confident in my own abilities, confident that I can look after myself well, confident that if things do go wrong, that I can deal with them by myself, confident that, you know, like if I meet people, that people are actually going to like me and like my bubbly, lively personality, which I don't think this person really was that into in the end, you know, and value me and appreciate me for who I am. You know, that allows me to come alive. The more alive I feel, the less trauma I have in my body, the more happy I am in my body, the more I feel that my health and well-being is going up instead of down. But I do wake up feeling upset, and I do wake up feeling scared, and so I have negative thoughts and emotions in the morning, or whenever I get up. Sometimes this is like past midday. But then as I progress throughout the day and I get into doing projects myself, feeding myself, you know, showering myself in a nice way, doing things that make me feel good, listening to music, having a little bit of dancing, doing some weights, doing some Love Life Club, coaching, all this type of thing, then I'm doing more and more things for myself, like acts of service for myself. The more I feel better about myself, the more I believe in myself, I can look after myself, and the more I feel good. So that's what I tell you is invest in yourself, invest in whatever makes you happy, your hobbies, your interests, try new things, get out of your comfort zone, because the more you stretch your comfort zone, the more you'll start to have self-belief again. The more you'll start to like have more self-esteem, and the more you'll understand that this person's behavior is not a reflection of you, it's a reflection of them. And that, you know, you'll see that other people like you, you'll see that other people get on well with you. So when this person decides to put in your head that you're the crazy one and you're to blame, and then you get away from that and you see actually people do enjoy your company, people do like you for who you are, people do like your honesty, people do value you, people do take an interest in you, people are curious about you, then you see that it's not a you problem, it's a problem with the person before that was just being toxic for you, and they didn't really appreciate you or value you, right? And so this is really, really important. You know, you need to get back to focusing on yourself and your own health and well-being, and be okay just to be on your own. I'm okay to be on my own, right? I'm okay, right? Because I am, you know, I've lived on my own for a very long time. I know the drill myself, but I'm also, you know, I do have more disabilities now, which are scary. I'll admit that, but I'm still doing stuff. I had to do some washing up for myself the other day, and why that might be a simple thing to other people. It took over half an hour. I actually think it took 40 minutes to do, which would be like a 2 or 5 minute job, maybe 10 minutes at the most of someone else, right? But it's hard because I've got disabilities, so I am spending more time doing things for myself, because that person did used to help me with my disabilities, which I was grateful for at the time. But again, like I say, it wasn't just purely for selfless reasons. They had a motive behind doing that, which was based on self, which they admitted. And I thought it was good that they admitted that. But then I was getting some coaching, and they were like, well, the fact that they were getting something out of it for themselves is like a transactional thing. That's not actually friendship. That means they were doing something to get something out of you. That's transactional. That's self-serving behaviors. It's not actually healthy. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm getting the help and they're getting the thing they want. They're like, yeah, but that's not how friendship works. I'm like, oh, but that's because I've got patterns in my past from the way things have worked out that I thought, you know, I'm used to people. I guess I'm used to people, if I analyze it, you know, I'm used to people having love for me only based on certain things, like what I can do for them, and self-serving behaviors on their end, if you know what I mean, like conditional love, if you know what I mean, not unconditional. The fact is, this person thought they were unconditionally my friend as well, which is just ironic. You know, they're the opposite of what they think they are. So they were saying that, oh, I have unconditional friendship with you. It's a way to put me down, right? Because I had a boundary, right? And yet they were conditional because they were doing something in order to get my, you know, validation and stuff. And it's like, well, that is self-serving behaviors, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? So, you know what I'm saying? It's just like, it's not actually true. They're just living in a fictional world where what they're saying is not actually true. They had quite a lot of contradictions. They used to contradict themselves years ago, but I thought they'd stop doing it. But if I look back, they stopped speaking in contradictions a lot of time. But in the last like months particularly, they've had very contradictory behaviour to what they used to have. And then they'll say they've always been like that. And I know they haven't always been like that. So again, that's a gaslighting thing. So yeah, very difficult, right? But we have to just put trust back in ourselves. We have to build ourselves up, our self-esteem, our self-worth. We have to listen to our own voice, and we have to understand that we'll never really understand that person. We'll never know what the truth was and wasn't. Really, they're a deceiver, a betrayer. The behavior in the end was toxic, and do you know what I mean? It was just not good. And so there's nothing I can do to change that person's behavior, but they did make it easy for me to walk away in terms of the toxicity in the end, because it was a no-brainer to me that I had to go. There's categorically no way I could stay near that person ever again because of the fact I wasn't safe with them anymore because of the behaviour they displayed. Not physically safe or emotionally safe with them anymore. So they made it easy in that way for me to just leave. But not easy in the sense that it's the hardest thing you've got to do when you've known someone like for 7 years and you've got to walk out. I mean, my longest long-term actual romantic relationship has been 8.5 years. And my one before that was 6 years and 2 months. I got with them as a teenager. And so, you know what I mean? These are romantic relationships are long. This is a friendship that's long. It's like, my God, do you know what I mean? It's not a simple thing. But I have to just be thankful that I don't spend the rest of my life now with these people that are toxic and deceived and betrayed me. Do you know what I mean? Because if you project it, just imagine if it carried on going on that trajectory, then, do you know what I mean? It would have been awful. At least I know that they were going over my boundary. I found that out. They were going to go over my boundary. And so, you know, I was able to go away from that situation. But it's awful. It's absolutely awful. I wouldn't wish it on anyone. You know what I mean? It's a dreadful experience. But I'm glad that I'm with myself. You know, like the person said, I just don't want you to be alone. That's not a true friendship. Like someone who wants you as a friend will be like, oh, I really value friendship. I really care. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't want you to be alone. I'm thinking, is that all you think? You just think I'm someone you feel sorry for. You don't want to be alone. It's just like, that's not what a true friend would say. And I'm thinking, but I'm not alone because I've got myself. I'm less alone with myself than I am in a connection with someone who doesn't value me. And who has these subtle behaviors as a way of like undermining my own confidence, which is like when I'm saying there's something different about the dynamic and they say there's nothing wrong, and that's basically gaslighting. Do you know what I mean? It's like and the fact I've been feeling imbalanced for so long, even in the friendship, you can feel like you're totally alone, or maybe not totally, but quite alone. Like it's just so stressful. You know, when you're the one having to kind of like mend the situation all the time and fight for the friendship all the time, you know what I mean? So, and that's a classic sign that person's not really valuing you, not really that into you, whether it's a friendship or a romantic relationship or dating scenario, when you're the one doing the majority of the like trying to like, you know, like, you know, ask them questions, wanting to meet up with them, you know, showing enthusiasm to see them, missing them, and they don't have, basically, they don't display those innate needs. I'm not saying they don't do those behaviors sometimes, but that actual innate needs from within, you know them. So yeah, it's you can be, I mean, I know people in marriages, or I've known people in marriages that can be so alone in a marriage because they can be married to someone who's a narcissistic or avoidant or both, and they're so alone because it's like being in a relationship with yourself anyway, but you're not even getting as many needs met because you're too worried about them, and like trying to like make things right and sort things out and put things back on an even keel, which is not really even if you're doing. It's them that are throwing you off the even keel, right? And they're not bothered. And so, you know, until you bring it to their attention, because they either have to do something about it or they can't keep it up. But usually when the mask falls and they can't keep the behaviour up anymore, is when things end, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Because it's too much for them. You find them out in the end, right? You slowly find out. You have more and more difficult conversations, and they're like probably thinking, "Oh, I'm being found out now," because they're noticing my behaviours that are not good, but I want to pretend that they're fine. So anyway, you know, it's really difficult, and I don't wish this on anyone, but rebuilding your life is all about building yourself up and rebuilding yourself from the ground up, and rebuilding your connections, your sociality, you know, social life, your friendships, your online connections, your in-person connections, building your hobbies and interests, getting to know you, and getting yourself out of your comfort zone, because the more you get yourself out of the comfort zone, the more you'll be able to trust yourself more with new things, and that you can tackle anything that comes your way. You'll have better resilience is the word, you know what I mean? And by being with yourself more, you'll understand that you're not dependent on anyone anymore, or if you are, it's a lot less. Do you know what I mean? If you have any dependency at all. But you know what I mean? You just, get back to more even keel. I just want to be peace. Like I have, for the first time in my life, I have been having some inner peace. I've never felt that before. I didn't even know what inner peace felt like. And there have been moments where I've had some inner peace. It doesn't last because I'm still in a grieving process, but there's been times when I've just had this deep inner peace. And I'm like, finally, I can relax. I don't have to worry about that person. I don't have to try and make things right, even though it's not really me who's made things wrong in the first place. I don't have to have someone feeling like they don't value me as much, feeling like I, you know, got to scramble for them to see me, feeling like I'm the one who's got to try and hold the friendship connection together. You know, I don't have to deal with all that stuff anymore. I can just let it all go because it doesn't exist anymore. And the person that I thought they were, that's hard. That's hard when you think someone's this person, but you really find out they're someone else. So if you look back, you're like, oh, I get it now. Self-serving behaviors, ego-driven, worry about what people think all the time. Life revolves around them looking good all the time to the outside world. Yeah, okay, I get it now. Subtle put-downs, you know, like, well, not really subtle, is it? Like, oh, you're the one with the problem. Like, which came out of nowhere, you know, blaming you and calling you controlling when you put a boundary in place and they're going over your boundary. No accountability, no empathy, you know. You end up thinking, you've seen the picture, actually. You see the picture looking back. And you're like, But obviously, if someone's blurring your reality and telling you that nothing's wrong, but clearly something was, then that's hard. It's hard because you were right, you know. Someone said to me, what does it feel like when I was having private coaching? What does it feel like to actually know that you were right all along, you know? And I'm like, well, it feels good, but it feels like really weird. You know, it's hard to trust your own judgment when someone's like been telling you for months and nearly 2 years that there's nothing wrong when you know there's been something wrong. And that makes it all the worse because they could have just told me 2 years ago, actually, you're right. There is something changed in our dynamic. This is it. And, you know, it's better to end our friendship then. They could have dissolved it then and saved me all this pain, emotional upset and pain and betrayal. But no. You know what I mean? So I think we have to be like understanding that this is not our fault, even though they've made it our fault. Because if you're dealing with avoidance or narcissistic traits or narcissism in general, they make it your fault, right? And they do this so that they don't have to have accountability for their actions. They can leave thinking that they were great and they did nothing wrong or whatever. And, you know, they're so wonderful. They're very ego driven, you know? And And it's hard because I was blaming myself for a bit. I was thinking, how could this happen? Maybe it's my fault, you know? But then I realised now that it's not my fault. I didn't turn on that person. I didn't change my behaviour. I've always been very consistent. And I put a boundary in place, which was difficult. I've never actually set a boundary like specifically like that and gone through with it before for my own health and well-being. I've not done that before. But, you know, the person that I'm reconnecting with is just not a safe person for me to be anywhere near, not even indirectly. And this person deceived me, like siding with someone who deceived me, like going back to someone who deceived me, which is a form of psychological and emotional abuse, is just disgusting. I don't want anything to do with that person and the people they're connected to either. A lot of which are, you know, a couple, at least about 3 of them are toxic as well that they're connected to. I just don't want that. You know, I don't want any of that toxicity. So unfortunately, I still have some connection to this person at the moment. So that's still hard for me. I can't completely unconnect, unfortunately, for legal reasons, unfortunately. So that's really not good. But, you know, I'm not interested in speaking to this person otherwise ever again. I have to for that thing, but, you know what I mean? I just don't want anything more to do with them, you know. As far as I'm concerned, the person I knew is dead, and this is just a body walking around. Someone who's like, you know, very ego-driven and not really who I thought they were. So, I don't know. Walking around with a different persona that I don't even recognise anymore. So, whatever. It's just like formalities with them now, do you know what I mean? As and when, if I have to ever talk to them, communicate with them. I prefer to communicate with them via message if I have to, not talk, but I might require talking, but I just don't want to ever have them anywhere near me ever again. It's not safe for me to be anywhere near this person. Do you know what I mean? Not with the behavioural change just like that and the way that they were with me. It's not safe, you know, it's very unsafe. So I'm thankful I'm in safe, you know, I'm in safety now. And it's hard though, the person you trusted the most, it's hard that when sometimes the person you trust the most is actually the most harmful person and you don't even realise it. Do you know what I mean? Or one of the most harmful people. It's horrible. But I think you just have to build your self-esteem up, self-worth, and put a lot of focus on yourself. Not because you are a bad person, but because you need to heal yourself and do things that make you feel good and that are self-loving and self-healing and taking care of your own health and well-being. Because, you know what I mean, if you can look after your own health and well-being, it's going to make you more reliant on yourself. And you do need to become more reliant on yourself. So to try and not end up in these types of situations again, you can't guarantee it. And if we've got, you know, I have to look at my own patterns, like what is the patterns? Like I felt sorry for this person. I honestly believe they were self-depreciating because they just was, you know, they'd had a lot of difficulties in their life and they were saying they weren't a good person. Now I realise, I should have just accepted they're not a good person because they said they're not. I should have just like, you know, accepted that. But I honestly just felt like they weren't right about that they, you know, they'd just been through a lot of difficult stuff, because I know they've been through a lot of difficult stuff. I'm not going to reveal the stuff they've been through, but everyone's been through difficult stuff. I've been through difficult stuff, but I didn't end up treating them like that in the end, and I still valued their worth all throughout the friendship, which they clearly didn't with me. You know, they didn't value it very much at all in the end. So, you know what I mean? I think you've got to reflect on your own behaviour, but obviously I have still got work to do on myself, because it's like, you know, attracting toxic people is not good. Do you know what I mean? And usually this has got through patterns in childhood or previous relationships, you know, so and it's hard to retrain yourself when you haven't had any good role models. Do you know what I mean? For like what healthy relationships will look like. So I've still got work to do on myself. I still don't have all the answers. And I just want you to know that I appreciate you for being here. I hope this has helped you to understand how to rebuild your life. You know, get away from the person if you can. Just recapping here. Get away from the person if you can. Or cut as many ties as possible. Only deal with formalities if you have to. Be by yourself for a bit. Work through the trauma and the emotions. Don't just pass it off going, I'm just numb yourself out. Don't do that. You have to go through. Means being in the pain, going through the emotions. This will actually get you out of the emotions quicker. But it's the most hardest thing to do because most people don't want to sit with their own emotions and pain, right? Self-reflect, analyze what you need to analyze, but know in the end that at the end of the day, they did you wrong if they did you wrong. And, that's on them. That's them. Even if they've gaslighted you and made it out your fault, it's not your fault, right? You know your integrity. You know whether you behaved with honesty or not. You know the way you are. If you're not the dishonest person, they are. That speaks volumes about them. If you put a boundary in place for your health, safety, and well-being, and they cross that boundary, they're not really caring about your safety. They've not got your best interests at heart. They've only got their own best interests at heart, right? So, So, look at the overall bigger picture and try not to self-blame. I have been blaming myself to say, thinking, oh my God, what happened? Like, because this person was blaming me, So obviously I'm thinking, is it my fault? I'm trying to analyze it all the time, like depict it, thinking, well, no, you put a boundary in place because it's to do with your health and safety. You didn't want to be in a situation indirectly connected to someone who's been toxic and abusive towards you. It's perfectly fine. That's healthy to not want that, right? So, and I did all the analysing and self stuff, and now I'm still trying to rebuild my life, by, like I said, going out to different meetups, pushing myself out my comfort zone to meet different people in different settings, reclaiming space. So I'm doing some reclaiming of like what, a space I shared with him at one point, went somewhere with him, going to meet new people in that space, reclaiming it, doing my writing, which makes me have a lot of happiness and pleasure because it's my life purpose, chilling out a bit, not being too full on with new connections, just leaning back more and taking things more slowly, and like trying to improve myself, but also just giving myself credit. Like, I walked away from someone who ended up being really toxic unexpectedly. I literally had to make a decision that in the moment, like, this person was fine with me in the day and then just switched like that. The same day, switched from planning stuff with me to being like that. It's like, what the fuck happened? You're like two different people, completely different personalities. What the hell happened? I do not know. Right? That's what's so shocking. And I had to make a decision for myself. I tried to save the friendship, but so yeah, Sandra, I can't vent to you. Oh, bless you. I love you, Olivia. Sending love to everyone. I'm going to be going off here soon. So I've been on here for nearly a couple of, over 2 hours now, nearly 2.5 hours. Can I vent to you? Depends what you need to vent to me about, Olivia. Is it something to do with like relationships and stuff like that? I mean, obviously, I know you're going through a difficult time at the moment. So, you know what I mean? With grief, with personal loss. So, is it to do with that? I'm really, really sorry that you're going through stuff. I know that I've got to go soon. I need the toilet as well. Which isn't a good thing to be saying, is it? But I do actually need the toilet. I usually go to the toilet every hour, and it's been like 2 hours, nearly 2.5 hours. But you can't sleep, I'm guessing, Olivia, because you were going to sleep. So yeah, I hope you're all right. And I'm sending you big love, I think with grief, it takes a long time to go through. It can take months or even like a year or years, And it takes a long time because you've got Olivia. My mum is going back to hospital because she is having trouble breathing again. And I've just been told I can't go with her. Oh, right. Oh, my gosh. So, yeah, I'm really sorry to hear your mum is not well again. So when you say you've been told your mum you can't go with her, is that because your dad said it's a school night, you've got to stay at home or something? I guess that must feel like you're left out and you must be really worried about her and concerned and want to be with her. I'm guessing how you feel is that. I'm sorry that they're not allowing you to like go with her. I've had a situation in my family where my mum's been in hospital and I haven't even known about it, but that's because my mum would rather not have me in hospital with her because she's I'm bawling my eyes out, and it's because I'm a child and I'm too young. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm really, really sorry to hear that. I don't understand why you can't still go to hospital with her, but I guess maybe it's distressing seeing her like that or something. But children are still allowed, aren't they? But I do know they have certain regulations in hospitals sometimes where they can only have X amount of people with them at the same time. So I'm really, really, really sorry, Olivia. I'm really sorry that you're in distress and upset and pain. I wish I could give you a virtual online community friendship hug. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I know you must be really, really worried about her. And it's going to be hard for you to sleep, isn't it? It's because I have to be an adult. Oh, right. Well, at least you know that it's not your fault that you can't go with her. And that there's a reason for it, even if it's not a nice reason. So I would just think to yourself that it's not your fault you can't go. You go with her if you could, and understand that it's not your fault. I hope you're not blaming yourself, but I can understand you're upset because if you care about someone and love them, it's only natural for you to want to be with them, especially when they're not very well, because breathing problems are obviously quite severe. So I hope your mum will be okay. She's going to Sunderland Royal Hospital. Well, I'm glad she's going to be treated in the hospital. I'm glad she's going to get good care because that's important. Maybe you can go and see her in the day, like after school tomorrow, if they allow that, because sometimes they allow visitors. Do you know what I mean? It's better that she gets to hospital than not. Do you know what I mean? So hopefully they can treat her and get her sorted as soon as possible. I hope that that her boss didn't make her work, because I know you said her boss was going to make her work again. I hope she's not been into work. It's horrible when bosses just put profit before actual people. Do you know what I mean? I'm sorry you're going through this. I'm really, really, really sorry. Maybe make something nice for her for when she comes out of hospital, to put your mind into something good. Is there a collage you could make for her? A card maybe? So that if she has to stay over, if you can't see, you can make her a card and share how you feel in the card. Like because I know you're very good at making things. So maybe you could make a nice card for her and put in there how much you love her and care about her and hope she gets well. That would be quite nice for her. I don't go back to school until the 8th, and she is supposed to go back today. Well, obviously she's not going to go back to work today, which is a really good thing. She really needs to be resting. And if you don't go back to school to the 8th, I'm hoping they'll let you go and see her tomorrow in the daytime. Do you know what I mean? When it's visiting hours. So I would say, like, try and put it's important to, like, feel your feelings with any situation and don't suppress or repress them. So I'm glad you can share that with me in this channel. One thing I would say, though, is I think turn your attention to maybe something practical that you can do, and maybe a self-care thing as well, something for yourself, like what would make you feel good or better now. I mean, I know that the situation isn't good with your mum, so if you wanted to do something, maybe make her a card, a get well card, because obviously she's not very well anyway. So either maybe you'll be allowed to take it, or at least, you know, someone will be able to take it for you. Maybe in the hospital, if she needs to stay in and she gets better, that you could either go and see her, or maybe have a video call with her or something like that. I don't know if that's possible. Just try and think of, I know you're very creative and I know you've got a really creative brain. Just my mum being with me, I know. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry she can't be with you. What's one thing you could do to ease the pain, do you think, of not being able to see your mum at this time? What do you think might help you? Because I know you're very creative and you're very good at coming up with solutions. I love your solutions on your YouTube. If you haven't seen Olivia's channel, go and watch Olivia's channel if you're into watching Olivia sing songs. And what else do you do on your channel? Olivia's got a number of channels. I can't keep up with all her channels sometimes. I'm like, I think you've got 3 now, haven't you, or more? Is that right? Olivia does dancing on some of them, miming to songs. What else do you do? Artwork as well. Playing musical instruments you do. Skull is very talented, people. Very talented. Do you know what I mean? You do a lot of stuff. Go to the park sometimes. Do like reviews. Do a lot of stuff. Really good stuff. So yeah, Olivia does a lot on her channels. If you like that type of thing, go and check her out. Check her channel out. I hope your mum will be better soon. I would say, I don't know. I'm just trying to be quiet because both my next door neighbours both have newborns. That's very considerate of you. But obviously, you do need to let your emotions out as well. But I think it's very considerate of you. Would it help listening to some music? Or watching a movie? Or, like I said, journaling your emotions, how you're feeling? Or making something nice for your mum? I actually have 4 channels. You have 4 now. Oh my gosh. I think I know of 3. I don't know if I know of the 4th. I might know of it. I might have subscribed and not realised. I usually, as soon as you tell me new channel, I subscribe to it. As long as I know it's definitely you. But yeah, so wow. I don't know how you keep up with all them. I've got a number of channels as well besides this, but this is my main channel. So yeah, I think whenever we're dealing with difficult situations, it's best if we can try and focus on what we can control, not what we can't. So with your mum, obviously it's really, really sad, but unfortunately you can't control the fact you can't go with her. So what I would say is to try and focus on things you can control, like journaling your emotions. Oh, you got a 4th channel. I don't think I've known about that one, Billy and Olivia. Thank you for sharing. So yeah, what I would say is like if you're feeling upset about something, you could try journaling your emotions, having some food or drink that makes you feel calm, listening to music, watching a movie, making a card for your mum. Like I said, you could do some artwork. So basically, like when we can't control a situation and there's nothing we can do about it, we have to obviously be upset because we need to be upset, and then think about what we can control and focus on the things that we have control over. So when we feel out of control, it's good to focus on things we can feel in control about. This applies to any situation, like even to do with breakups, like friendship breakups, relationship breakups, grief on anything, like loss, pain. We have to try and turn our attention back to things we can control, not what's out of our control. Because if we focus on things that are out of control, we feel more out of control, if you know what I mean. I think you have to recognize your emotions and go through those emotions, and it's okay to feel the way you're feeling. I mean, it's natural. I'd be upset as well if I was in your position, so I understand. You have a right to be upset. You have a right to feel like it's not fair that you can't go to the hospital with your mum. You have a right to feel the way you do, and I'm really, really sorry. And I wish I could give you a virtual community friendship hug through the screen. Big, 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 big hugs for you through the screen. So yeah, and I think in order to feel a bit more soothed, I think about what you could do to self-soothe. Like if you can make yourself a cup of tea without burning yourself. If you're going to burn yourself, don't make yourself a cup of tea if you're too upset. Is there anything nice, calming music you can put on? Is there journaling you can do? Journaling's quite good. Games, if you want to play a game, if you've got any games you can play, artwork, anything that helps you to feel more in control of an aspect of your life when you're not in control of the other part, if you know what I mean. So I know you must be worried sick and your mind's going over and over things, but probably try to do something to also distract your mind. So we need to when we're upset, we need to sit with that pain and upset and let it out, but also try to distract our mind a bit to self-soothe as well if we can, so that you have a balance, because obviously otherwise it's upsetting for you and you'll focus on your upset all the time, whereas it'd be good for you to also self-soothe, if you know what I mean. But I just want you to know I'm really sorry this is happening, and I hope your mum will be okay. I really do. But maybe make her a nice get well card. I think she'd appreciate that, and it shows you've been thinking about her, and you could write words in there of how much you love her and care about her and wanted to get well. Do you know what I mean? She might like that. It's something productive, but something that speaks 1,000 words and might make her feel better, even in the midst of all the difficulty she's facing. My dad has COPD, which is a breathing problem. He's on permanent oxygen now, so you have to wear an oxygen mask all the time, and that happened to him since January last year, so that was quite a shock. He was rushed into hospital. So, you know, I relate to how difficult this is for you, although I wasn't living with my dad at the time, so it's harder for you. I'm going to play one of my games, and I'll tell her I'm going to make her a letter. That's good. Go and play one of your games and tell her you're going to make her a letter. I think that's really good. I think that's really good. Like, in any grieving situation, it's quite good to journal, let out your emotions, either let them out by talking through them or writing through them. And writing her letters, I think, is really good. Some things people do when they're obviously going off the point now, going off the topic of your mum, but going on to the topic about betrayal in friendships or relationships or dating. Sometimes people find it effective to write a letter to the person who betrayed them and write down all the betrayal and deception and things that they did wrong, and write the letter as if you were sending it to them, but don't really send it to them, and then like burn it or screw it up. This has obviously got nothing to do with your mum's letter. Your mum's letter you need to give your mum. You can give the letter to your mum. I'm just talking about the opposite end of the scale when it's like with what I'm talking about with this video, when I started talking about like how, you know, what to do when you're trying to recover from a toxic relationship. Because you just reminded me when you said you're going to write your mum a letter, which is a loving letter because she's not very well, just reminded me that one of the techniques I learned to actually get over heartache and heartbreak is to, and toxicity is to like write a letter, or either you can write journal your feelings, emotions, or you can write a letter to that person, but don't actually send it and like burn it or rip it up. So, you know, I mean, some people might feel like sending it, but it's going to have no effect. So it's better really a lot of the time to just burn it and rip it up. But it can be a way of like getting your emotions out, everything you want to say to that person. I find it effective like chatting. So I'm in Matthew Hussey's Love Live Club, so I can tap to Matthew AI 24/7 whenever I want, which is very helpful. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I'm going to leave it here. Big hugs to you, Olivia. Go and play your game and write your mum a letter. I love sending I love you. And love everyone else. Sending lots of love. Thank you. Please give this video a thumbs up if you like this video. Don't forget to subscribe, I was going to say, and share it with any friends or family or person you think might need to hear this right now. Remember, this is my own personal opinion, so take from it what you will, my own personal experience. And don't forget, once you subscribe, to hit that bell icon so you never miss an episode. I do live chat shows like this, which is usually focused on something like dating, relationships, self-confidence, self-love, and self-care. And then I do lifestyle vlogs and entertainment vlogs as well. So you have a mixture on this channel: information, education, entertainment, and lifestyle. All to do with asexual life, but relevant to whatever sexuality you are usually. So I share my own asexual life journey in order to help you in yours. And most of the topics I cover and themes are universal, no matter what sexual orientation you are. So you're welcome here, so long as you are obviously not a toxic person and you're kind and caring and, you know, and ally, then you're always welcome here. And I love you. And I'll see you soon next video live stream. Big love and hugs for you, Olivia. Take care. And I'll see everyone soon. Take care and thanks for watching. Have a good day. Have a nice day. Bye.